His Majesty the King promised Alan that he would be the crown prince. He said that he owed his whole life to Daphne. After all, she worked so hard for this, for so many years, remaining in his shadow. It must have been difficult. Well, there's no need for that anymore. Once he becomes the crown prince, she'll be able to live the life she's always dreamed of. Flora told Daphne that she was her good luck charm, and thanks to her, they could live happily ever after. Tomorrow, the story will have a happy ending in her past life. Daphne read this novel, so she already knows about it. The eldest Prince Alan is the main character in the story. He will inherit the throne. After this, he has a long path of development ahead of him, and he will propose to the main character named Floris. Then he will offer to live together happily ever after. She will nod with a trembling voice and partly say that she has been waiting for this for so long. This is the happy ending. This way, she will avoid the horrible death that was in the original plot, and she will be able to live happily ever after. The freedom she did not see in her past life will belong to her, even if it only exists in a novel. This is how the main character reasoned. But when everything started to burn, she did not understand at all why all this was happening to her. She just wanted to know the reason. Just a couple of hours ago, they were so kind and considerate of you with her. The girl didn't do anything bad to them, so she doesn't understand at all who set all this up. The court guards will come, and the rebels will be arrested. All who sided with the princess are guilty of death. The men had no idea what to do or how to protect the princess, but they were all killed. The main character began to lose consciousness. Just one day until the happy ending, but everything is turned upside down. It took her a lot of effort to achieve the happiness she experienced in this life, and now all this has happened. Prince Alan came up to her and addressed her. She was very happy to see her brother. The guy decided to ask where she got so battered. Daphne said that the guards and rebellious servants burst into her room. Daphne didn't understand at all what was happening and why her brother continued to smile. Alan said that his sister's victory should be his, and winners are not judged. Daphne did her job perfectly. The girl said that she would never betray him because she only wanted him and Flora to be happy. But Alan pushed his sister away. Alan said that when he becomes crown prince, he doesn't need her, nor Kale, nor Claire alive. His kingdom is no place for other pretenders to the throne. She cannot be afraid because she will not see Claire's death. The only one to blame here is Daphne and her naivety. Dab yelled that she had never claimed the throne and told her brother that it was a misunderstanding, so he should stop and listen to her. Daphne noted that if Flora found out about this, it would break her heart. The prince said ironically that she told him that she needed to be killed. She completely agreed with him on this. Daphne did not understand at all what her mistake was, but she sincerely wished these two happiness and tried to achieve this. The girl helped them so that they would be happy and she herself could be free and happy. This is the second time she dies like this, and she doesn't want what happened in her first life to happen again. She had loved ones then, and she thought they loved her, but they all betrayed her. And for some reason, the same thing is repeated in this novel. Daphne thought that they would never betray her, but that's exactly what they did. Daphne woke up in tears. She didn't understand what had happened because the estate wasn't on fire, and she was in her own quarters. She was in shock because she was sure that Alan had just killed her. But there is no pain. And her hands are so small. The estate is not burning, and she feels weak in her body. And there are dark circles under her eyes. The girl realized that she was 13 years old. Daphne had no idea how she had survived since she had just been dead. When Daphne was that age, the plot hadn't even begun. She is given a secondary role in this novel as moral support, which ultimately leads her to a sad end. To be precise, according to the plot, her role is needed to restrain the development of the main character Alan, and she must die. The only way to survive is to hold on to one of the main characters, but she bet on the wrong people and was betrayed again. But it doesn't matter that Alan deceived her, and everyone she trusted betrayed her, and she trusted them all. Their smiles seemed sincere to her. They gave her hope. Daphne understood that all the people from her past life just abandoned her, and she did not understand at all how they could do this. They're all inhuman. She decided she would make Alan feel what she felt. To take revenge on him, she will need the help of many people, those who hate the king and their entire family. She won't find help among ordinary people. She needs someone from a noble family, perhaps a relative of the royal family. Daphne decided to think about who could help her with this. Duke Kabil would not do, he was Flora's grandfather. Claire's second prince, too, he's a real scoundrel. Or Countess Elmiller, who was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. It's been a long time since she could just come to them and say, "Hello." After all, they won't listen to a simple ice cube, so she'll have to wait until the Countess becomes a little more modest. All this knowledge won't help her at all. Perhaps someone else. There is someone suitable, and he is not of royal blood. This man was an enemy of Daphne and Alan in the story. A vengeful devil and a rebel against the royal power. This man hates the royal family as much as Daphne does now. This is Archduke Cale Bertrand. Archduke Cale Bertrand is a scoundrel, or one who took his own mother's life to take her place. Lord of the cold northern lands, teeming with demons. He's only 15 years old, and he already has so many scary rumors. The only thing that turned out to be untrue was that he drinks blood instead of water. Daphne really wanted him not to sell her out and help her a little bit, and together they would get rid of Alan. She would do anything to make them suffer. Now she had to think about how she could attract the Archduke's attention. The maid was surprised that her mistress had already woken up. She said she was feverish and couldn't even get up from her bed. That meant the lady was lying again. The maid knew she would be right. The maid had traveled a long way to get the medicine, so she can thank her. Now Daphne begins to remember this maid, Marielle Libert. The position of a maid for Daphne was undesirable for many, not from the old one, and not from pity. The woman said that she should be happy about life, because not every simpleton like her gets a sudden title. It's just that people who are tired of knowing commas are disgusting to servants. In public, she behaved impeccably, like a caring and kind servant. And in the estate, she constantly scolded the girl. She said that Daphne should listen to her, otherwise no one would perceive her as an aristocrat. It's not written in the story, but she learned it the hard way. Mariel asked her what she was doing there. When she gave us a seriously ill woman, she threw her cheap drugs and bread, and scolded her that she should have listened to her. Now the main character remembered. Daphne dropped this medicine bottle and asked the maid to pick it up, because she had a headache and was going to lie down. This made Mariel very angry, and she grabbed the girl and asked her what she was doing and how she was behaving. Daphne wondered what she would say this time. The woman asked her with great anger what kind of behavior this was. I should have addressed her by name, but the woman said that my lady was forgetting herself, since she allowed herself to be rude enough to call her by name, since for her she was Mrs. Liberty. For a long time I didn't understand why, not if she is dressed like a servant. Then perhaps she is her servant. The maid notices that her mistress has obviously not been spanked for a long time, so she will beat her and make her wake up. The woman grabbed the cord and screamed at her to be patient and learn, because the king and queen would never accept her. Daphne remarked that she thought she was the one who needed to be punished. Yes, I stole so much of her salary that I was able to buy myself a nice house. The house is truly wonderful. So I asked her if she was satisfied with the fruits of stealing from the royal family. The maid asked her how she knew about it. Daphne knows a lot and can tell the emperor about it. The girl said that her maid was not stupid and could use her brain. If she tells the emperor that she stole from his treasury, then it's clear who he'll be angry with. Daphne noted that her maid could lose her head after such a thing, and added that if she exposed her, she would only praise her, because she will immediately point out where the imperial gold went. And as for the recognition of the king and queen, she cannot worry, because she is not interested in this. But if she sacrifices it, their relationship will become a little better. So she is very grateful to her. Maria Lubava fell on her knees and began to beg the princess not to tell them and to have mercy on her. When Daphne finds out what Alan is up to, she'll get rid of her. But not yet. Daphne said she was kind, so she would keep it a secret. Mariel was in tears, asking if it was really true. Daphne said that in return, she would obey her in everything, after which she asked if the maid understood what was required of her. Mariel promised to do what her highness told her. Daphne said she was hungry, so she should bring her somethings. Daphne is almost fainting from hunger. The maid promised to take care of it. For the first time, she was brought something decent. The girl told Mariel that Count Komen would be arriving from an audience tomorrow, and she had to bring her there in the middle of the meeting. The maid was in complete shock and did not understand what this meant, after which he asked how she knew that he would come. The girl said that he was the only one who protested against the tax bill at the government meeting. His Majesty did not like this, so he intends to kill the Count, and she will convince him otherwise. That's how it was in the plot. She needs to save the Count, he is her key to the plan. The maiden principal was not against it. Count Komen will come to talk to the operator about the bill. The maid was ordered to wait for the Count in the garden on the way to the audience room, and then take him to the lady. Marielle noticed that he was indeed coming, so she doesn't understand at all how she found out, because only members of the royal family and high society know about this meeting. Count Komen is a man of honor. He was known since the reign of the previous king for not being shy about telling the truth. The maid reported that her mistress was asking him for an urgent visit. When the man heard the word madam, he assumed that it was probably someone from the royal family, so he ordered him to be led out. Marielle asked to follow her. She already has a faithful servant, Marielle, and she would greatly benefit from the favor of such an important person as Count Comens. The Count said that it was his pleasure to meet her Princess Daphne. The girl was surprised that he recognized her. The man said he knew there were only 2 children her age in the royal family, Daphne and Prince Claire. Indeed, Daphne will need to speak to His Majesty. It is not fitting for a princess to look the way she does. The girl asked the Count if he was going to the king. The man said it was true, but he had no idea how she knew about it. Daphne knows he has voted against the tax bill for years, and she asks him to change his position this time, because he wouldn't change anything on his own anyway. The Count shouted that he would never do such a thing. Until at least one member of the council is against this, bill will not be passed. That's it. He doesn't understand at all who told the princess this. Daphne noted that she couldn't tell because it was a secret. If the only conveyor that sang in the forest was killed by a hunter, the forest would fall silent. The Count must understand this. The man asked her if she was sure that the king intended to kill him and his entire family because of the taxes. Daphne noted that he was absolutely right, because he was going against the will of the king, so he should know that His Majesty had already prepared arrows for the canary. The Count remarked that it was just a nightmare. The girl said that today was his last chance to avert his doom. It is not because he is distraught that he has realized that there is no longer any honor at court, as there was under the former king. He has been betrayed, and she understands his feelings. Unfortunately, there is something else. The king intends to betroth his daughter to Archduke Bertrand. Her honor will be violated, and she will be killed. Such is the will of the king. The Count did not agree to this, and shouted that he would not give his daughter to us, to die a disciplinary death. Daphne said that it was right, and he didn't have to give it back. If he did everything as she said, then it wouldn't happen. The princess asks him to change his position on the bill this time, so that it can be passed. The Count said that if taxes were raised, the people would suffer, because the princess herself was from the people. Daphne said again that he had only 2 choices. The first is that he submits to the will of the king, and the second is that he continues to manifest and perishes. There is no third option, and she hopes that he makes the right choice. After all, it wasn't just him who would die, and the princess wouldn't want that. The Count said that he would like to ask her why she was telling him such secrets. Daphne noted that they all had goals, and by following the king's lead, he would interfere with his plans. And when he raises the question of who to marry, Archduke Bertrand, Daphne asks him to recommend her. The Count noted that the princess was about to embark on a very dangerous path, and asked her if she understood this. The girl told him not to worry, because she would simply tell her brothers. Daphne wants to live freely. She has the same fate whether here or in the Archduke's family. She will either die of hunger here, or when she grows up, she will be sold into slavery to foreigners. Daphne said that the Count need not worry about her, and added that his daughter would not have to fight for the inheritance. Well, if she gets married, she won't have to either. Igra thanked Her Highness for this information, and added that he would certainly recommend her at the right time. He only asks for time to think, because he needs a little time to make such a decision. Daphne said he could do as he pleased, and asked permission to take her leave. They didn't say goodbye, and the princess thought that he was still hesitating, but that was understandable because he was probably shocked. In any case, he will soon understand that she was right, and he will be grateful to her. This will make him her faithful ally. A month later, Daphne met with Count Komen and said that he wanted to tell her something. She noticed that he had lost a lot of weight, so she asked what was happening to him. He noted that the princess was right when he raised the question of the Archduke's marriage. The king wanted to appoint his daughter, and then he recommended Daphne. She probably already knew, the girl confirmed, and said that the brothers had already told her that she would go to Bertrand. The man told me that they were probably worried about her, but the girl said that they were irritated by this. Frankly, he is tormented that he is sending her to the beast's lair instead of his daughter. Worried about her, he said that he put some herbs and weapons for self-defense in this casket. Otherwise, probably with her crew packed food and a supply of capital tea, Daphne was very grateful to him for that. In fact, this was the only manifestation of care that she experienced in this life. The man did not want to believe it, because he thought that she was constantly given gifts. Duck didn't say that it wasn't like that, but he shouldn't worry because they were always like this. The Count wanted to dispute something, after which he looked around and whispered to ask if she was being courted here. Then he asked how the princes treated her and whether the servants looked after her. Daphne didn't know what to answer. The Count remarked that this was very sad, because he thought that the princes cared about her, because they talked about it. The man thought she lived a carefree life as befits a princess. Are they all lying? Daphne is from a lower class, but the royal family adopted her, and it turns out that's how her brothers feel. Daphne said that this was why she had told him that it would be better for her to live with the Archduke's family. The Count said that if they were not cared for by anyone in this palace, then he would be honored to become her patron and would take care of her safety until she returned home. The man asked her to take care of herself and to send him a letter immediately if she needed anything. Daphne was very grateful to the Count Koman, had always been a kind person both in the story and in practice. The main character will never forget his kindness and how strongly he protects his family. Suddenly, the prince called Daphne to him. He wanted to look at her before she left. Daphne came out with the carriage, and she thought he was busy. But he came anyway. Alan noted that he was not at all. He was very worried about her, but the girl said that everything would be fine with her. Alan hadn't expected her to have to commit so early. He wished it was just a dream. Alan thought it must have been so hard for her. He told her to take care of herself because she would finally live up to her family's expectations. The heart is pounding. The hands are shaking. The girl is trying to calm herself down. The worst is far ahead, not now. Daphne was grateful to him for coming to see her off because she thought that no one loved her, but he still came. Alan asked if he could not love. He was just busy with the inheritance and saw that she was really upset. The main character noted that he never came to her himself. He and the king, they were all just watching her die alone. She was such a fool that she didn't understand it. Alan apologized because he was supposed to protect her, but he will have to let her go to a strange house, so he apologizes. There is no need to pretend that he is not indifferent. No matter how long she cried and begged him, he would not even look at her side. Alan added that if only he had a little power in this house, he would never let her go to the house of this monster. The girl was going to her certain death, and Alan meanwhile was so busy playing to the crowd. She didn't understand at all how the aristocrats could believe this performance. Vassals and nobles follow him closely. She had to be grateful to her brother. Then she added that she didn't know he cared about her. She thought he was in her office and forgot, because neither he nor Claire had ever come to her. Alan was shocked and asked what she was saying. Daphne continued to say that no one loved her, and everyone had forgotten about her. Even when she had a fever, no one came to visit her. She was so lonely. The brother asked Daphne to get up and added that he had things to do, so he would go. He said she'd better look that way. After all, he'd prepared gifts for her. A whole chest, and it was already packed into her carriage. Daphne was very grateful to her brother. The little girl asked that next time he find time to talk to her. Next time she would kill him. Alan agreed and promised her to do it. The girl thanked her brother. When she returns, who will take away everything he has? After which the girl turned around and went to the carriage. The maids whispered and were shocked that Marielle was also going to the lands of the Archduke monsters lived there. Another maid thought that this was what she deserved, because she always looked at them as if they were dust under her feet. She would die together with her mistress. Marielle informed Her Highness that no more carriages were available, so she would go with hers. Daphne agreed. She could ask for another one, but for her sake, she wouldn't ask. But suddenly, she noticed that her maid's hand looked as if it had been hit, Marielle. Meanwhile was telling the coachman to start driving. Daphne turned to Marielle and asked her who had hit her. The maid was surprised and nervous. She said that she just got scratched while working, and that it was nothing serious. Daphne said it didn't look like a scratch, but the maid tanned her saying it was just a scratch, so there was no need to worry. Maria loved her, and maybe she had offended the other maids with her temper. She would deal with her gradually. What Daphne did will turn the plot a little, but not yet. She even got the chest from the count. But if everything goes wrong, Maria didn't understand at all why she was interested in the lives of ordinary people. Just a couple of days ago, she couldn't even speak properly. The maid did not understand at all how she could change so much overnight. Suddenly they stopped. The woman was telling Rachel to just look at this impudent girl. She was a servant, so it was completely unclear where she got such rich clothes from. It's outrageous. She's going to the Archduke without their permission. Well, the knights will protect them, and no one will protect these two commoners. Marielle understood and went towards the carriage. She turned to the princess and said that, as she had told her, the Parmin Pass would soon be there, and she had bought something for her in the nearest village. Daphne was grateful. She knew the plot, so she needed to make sure of something. Daphne ordered the doors to be opened for her, after which the maid asked where the princess wanted to go. The girl said that she wanted to talk to that knight over there. She got out with the carriage and called the man. He was very irritated and said that when you call your elders, you have to come yourself. Daphne said that her maid told her that the pass was coming soon and asked if this was true. The knights didn't quite understand the gist of the conversation. Daphne said that she was just very seasick on this road, so she was wondering if there was another way. The man told her not to talk nonsense, because there was no other way, because he knew this way better than she did. And the princess shouldn't think that she can just change the route as she pleases, especially since he has no intention of obeying the orders of some commoner. Daphne knew it suddenly. Her maid tried to intervene in the conversation, but the little girl stopped her. The girl said that he should know that a high position usually comes with high responsibility. The man didn't really want to listen to her and said that she had found the wrong person to teach her. Marielle said it was outrageous. Daphne told her to leave it, because he seemed to agree that he would take responsibility if there was an accident. They'll see. Daphne ordered the maid to come over, because she heard everything. The woman said she hadn't heard anything and had just come over. The princess said she was lying. After all, she was there and heard everything, so she shouldn't take Daphne for a fool. The woman did not understand at all what the lady was talking about and told her not to try to involve her in it. She repeated once again that she had not heard anything. Then she turned around and said that this was simply incredible impudence. They were still as arrogant as ever. Daphne decided that she would hold it against both of them. According to the plot, when the incident happened to me here, she came to save Count Coman's daughter. It's going to happen soon. Marielle noticed that they were falling on top of me on the carriage. Daphne immediately ordered them to stop the horses. The same knight asked the other what next. Then he said that they should go further, but the man said that the princess was telling them to stop. The knight was simply furious. He said he would not allow a commoner to give orders here. He began to dismount from his horse. The man tried to reinstate the captain, but he told him to mind his own business. He tried to stop him, but the man suggested shouting at him to mind his own business and broke into the carriage. Marielle asked him who he thought he was, since he had insulted the princess with his behavior. The knight said that she had better get engaged, because no one would protect her here. The knights did not understand at all what was going on there, because it was very noisy. They must protect the princess's life. On the other knight said that it was better not to interfere because it was an extra headache. Even if there is no emperor around, he still has to obey him. He promised to punish her because a woman decided to teach him. The princess shouted for them to stop. She had serious doubts about his knightly honor. If he doesn't want to ensure her safety, he can entrust it to the first divisions. The man was furious. The girl continued to ask him what he thought of the idea. Daphne ordered Marielle to take her luggage out of the carriage and told her to order everyone to get out. Marielle told the knights to pass it on to everyone quickly. The knight understood. Women do not understand at all what she is thinking about. Perhaps she made up something about a rockfall, and probably just does not want to go to the Archduke. Suddenly, a heavy rockfall began, and everyone started running away. The carriage was completely destroyed. The knights do not understand at all how this is possible. If the princess had not told everyone to get out, they would all have been buried. The princess's crew is broken, but the others are unharmed. Now it's time to punish them. Daphne ordered him to write a statement to the emperor since she was a witness to the commander's actions. The woman did not understand at all why she was blaming everything on her. After all, she was not a witness. She has orders to accompany her to the Archduke and not to write any statements. As always, no one is on her side. No matter what happens to her, no one will stand up for her except Muriel. Just like in the palace, Daphne had to argue. She asked them why they adults were still behaving like children. She is truly a human by blood, but she was adopted by the imperial family. And if she reports what happened to the emperor, they will all be guilty of death. Some of them will be lucky and get off with prison for insulting the imperial family. So she has no choice, so she has to write a statement. The woman said that she has neither paper nor ink, so she asked to go get them. Muriel told her not to bother because she had paper and ink. The commander of the knights did not carry out his duties in good faith, insulted the princess, and ignored her warning. As a result, the princess was in danger, and His Imperial Majesty's order to deliver the princess was threatened. Daphne believed that they wanted to kill her to save their own skins. The woman said she would send it, but Daphne said she would check it herself now. She was very interested to see what she had written there. She wrote that they had reached the pass just fine when suddenly a rockfall occurred. The princess and her crew were unharmed, and she, the maid, reported to him. She didn't understand why they all treated the royal family with such disdain. The princess almost died because of them all, and they can be accused of attempting to kill her. The knights immediately seized the very man who had treated the princess mercilessly. They also grabbed a woman who was a witness. She started asking for forgiveness and saying that she was wrong, and the commander told them to let him go. Daphne was pleased because they had dealt with the most violent ones, and now no one would stop her from questioning her power. The princess ordered the knights to escort the two to face justice. She needed a carriage, so she ordered Maria to transfer her luggage to another carriage. The women told them to wait because it was their carriage. They were outraged because they would have to walk. The princess said that they can take care of themselves. There's a village nearby? Maybe they can ask for a cart. They don't have to hurry. Marielle began to ask the princess how she guessed Daphne said that. She just knew, that's all. At last, she will arrive with the wind. His lordship has been informed that the princess has arrived. He didn't know how long she could hold out here before she started howling from the cold. The man also did not know whether she was suitable for the master. The Archduke told him to keep quiet. The man told his lordship that if she found out what they were going to do, the Archduke turned and asked if he needed to repeat it a second time. The man immediately apologized for his rudeness and stopped saying anything. The Archduke said that he had made a discovery for me, and he also thought that she would not last long here. What a prank! They didn't expect her to put the maids in the wagon. They were very interested to see what she was like. She has pink hair. The man at home said that the adopted princess was blonde, but she was not at all like she was described. Charming hair like cherry blossom and such a soft pink. The man noticed that her hair was the color of spring. Another man noticed that he was looking in the wrong place. It would be better to look at how she was dressed. Perhaps this is how they dress in the capital embodiment, according to size. They did not understand at all why no one had taken care to give the princess winter clothes. This was for the early autumn raincoat. These careless palace snobs, they have no respect. Mariel saw the princess off, and she was very worried. They gave her a cold coat that was the wrong size, and then they stood there like statues instead of helping. The men were shocked with you that they seemed to want the princess to trip over that cloak. The man told the lord that this was not the way to do things, but the lord did not listen to him and came closer to the princess. He said his name was Cale Bertrand. From now on he won't care. Marielle asked the milord what he was doing. The princess introduced herself and said that she was pleased to meet him. The princess shook his hand, but the man immediately broke away and said that a room had been prepared for her and that she should rest. The butler escorts her. Daphne complains that she rushed things, and the maid tells the princess to go faster. The people here are friendly, even though their nations fought in the past. In the end, they were able to come to each other. It had been so long since she had been in this citadel. She had been afraid here before, but this time she feels much more comfortable here than in the royal palace. Daphne was greeted by the butler. He informed her that she could leave her luggage here and follow him. The butler would show her to her quarters. He asked to ask his lordship for rudeness, because he has been fighting monsters a lot lately, and therefore a little aggressive. Daphne did not see the problem then. His lordship does not live in a country where there are many monsters. and it behooves him to be careful. So he went out to hunt monsters right now, and I wonder when he will return. The gentleman and his squad have already reconnoitered the nearest city, so he will return by morning. If Daphne asks to meet with Kale, she will not be allowed. Here, everywhere at once, she needs to bypass the maids to get to the reading room. The butler has lit the fireplace by the time she arrives, and has informed her that her luggage will be delivered here. It's 100 times better than her room in the palace. If she needs anything, she can call. In the morning, the girl asked Marielle for a comb and asked her if she had been beaten by the same maids who had been sent with her. Marielle said that's exactly it, and then asked why she was asking. Daphne thought she could use them. If you bribe them with good treatment and gifts, they will immediately become kinder. Edea and Rachel will be useful to her. They must mislead the emperors. She reported what her maid should do. Meanwhile, Kale returned. The butler met my lord and informed him that he had a good fight today. Kale noticed that on the way back, they were attacked by dark assassins. They took several alive. They will soon be delivered to the castle. The butler understood my lord and said that he was worried that the curse might come to life due to the smell of blood. So he prepared him a bath and a light supper, and then added that his master should not forget to take his medicine. Kale said that he remembered and ordered him to mind his own business. Kale felt a wild thirst and was very thirsty. If he drank blood, the curse would gain more power. But the medicine helps quench his thirst. The aristocrats laughed at him because he was a blood-sucking ghoul and ate his own mother, and he was happy. Another man said that he would eat them too, and then all of them. All these thoughts came flooding back to him at once. Kale laughed and remarked that it would be better if he really was a monster. When he opened the door, he heard a strange voice. It was a woman's voice wishing him good night. Daphne noticed that she had been waiting for him. The guy didn't understand at all why the princess was here, and didn't understand at all how she knew when he would come. Daphne remarked that she really wanted to get him alone. She had something to tell him. Kale wasn't quite sure what she wanted to tell him. The girl said that she would support him. Kale asked her what it means. Daphne said that she will help him break the curse and become emperor, bring back the glory of the house of Bertrand, and even spring to their land. All this is here. The man did not understand at all how he could know that she was telling the truth. Daphne said that if she did this, maybe he would believe her. The power to suppress the curse. Kale wants blood. Daphne told him she would make him emperor, so she asks him to be healthy and grow big. And when he grows up, he must kill the entire royal family. Kirill shouted that this was high treason. Let's do it right away. He'll pretend he didn't hear anything. Daphne asked if he was saying it was treason, and she noted that he himself was preparing for a war for the throne. The guy didn't quite understand how she knew about it. I must note that if the emperor had found out, he would have realized that he was a rebel. But fortunately, neither he nor his close associates know anything. Only she, so he has nothing to fear, because she hates the prince and the emperor as much as he does, and wishes them the worst and death. Kale asked what would happen if he didn't agree. Daphne pointed out that he would have one more enemy. The guy noted that the princess should be careful with her words, because he could kill her. Daphne said that without her help, he would have to continue living with this curse. After which he asked how he knew it all, apparently, that blood does not quench his constant thirst, but makes it worse. The guy did not understand at all how she found out about this. An adopted commoner, yet she knows the most intimate secrets of the court. He puts a sword to her throat, but she doesn't even flinch. She's not playing. She must have a lot of valuable information about the royal family at her disposal, so the guy said he wanted to think about it, because this is a completely non-standard situation, and he needs to calculate the options. Daphne said he could do as he pleased, and added that they would see each other tomorrow at breakfast. Meanwhile, the women were beside themselves with rage and shouted that the princess was just a little brat. The woman had no idea who she was, and what she thought she was. We didn't understand at all how she could do that to Natalie and her fiancé. She asked Rachel if she had any idea how she could have known about Mia's. Rachel said she didn't know, but she was curious about where it was from, too. The woman suggested she check. Suddenly, someone knocked on their door. The women had no idea who could be there. It was Marielle. She asked if she could come into the room, but the woman said no. Apparently, she was a maid and had to go to work. Marielle may not come until she has finished everything for the day, and in general, she must be dressed in a maid's uniform. Marielle told them to stop immediately. because they had been friends since childhood, and they had probably already forgotten about it. Rachel told her to speak for herself because they weren't friends, and Marielle was just running after them. Marielle admitted that this was exactly the case. The woman said that if she took someone else's, she would have to pay. Maria said that she did not take anything, and she added that she saw something wrong. The woman said that she clearly saw Marielle take the brooch and leave. Rachel asked Marielle how she wasn't ashamed and pointed out that she should pay. And then she won't get hurt. Marielle probably stole the brooch because she's a beggar. But Marielle said she didn't steal anything and said they were her friends. The girl said that they were disappointed in her because she was a bad girl. Rachel noticed that she hadn't changed and told her to just tell her why she came. Marielle fell to her knees. She begged Rachel and Idia to take her back to the capital with them. After all, they have already completed their task, so she does not want to die here together with her mistress for her misdeeds. Idia noticed that she was dreaming too much. She noticed that they couldn't coddle her for so long, especially with the eternal debtor. "Thank you, you can't put it in your pocket." Mariel said that she would do everything they said. Idia agreed. She said that she would have to listen to them without fail. Marielle, of course, is not very bright, but she will be useful to them. Edia said that she would report to them what the queen was doing. Marielle understood them. She also decided to ask Marielle how the princess knew about the rockfall. She said that there was nothing special about it because she just guessed. The princess was afraid that she would not be able to take revenge, and so she made a fuss. Edia said that she knew it because she was just pretending to know something. It was a show for the audience. The princess thinks she can escape their revenge, but they will show her. Everything went well. Daphne slept soundly in her cozy bed. She had never slept so soundly in her life, so she decided to sleep some more. Suddenly, a maid came up to her and said that she shouldn't sleep so late. Edia said that it was almost lunchtime, so she had to get up. If she was so lazy, she would set a terrible example for her subjects. Edia noted that she had seen yesterday how she had spoken to the Archduke without paying attention. Therefore, she needed to work on it. First, the princess must wash herself. Daphne saw a bowl of ice in front of her. She asked the woman how she could wash her face with ice water. In the morning, all the water was ice cold, so there was nothing she could do about it. Edia apologized for this and asked if she knew that washing with ice water actually makes the skin more beautiful, so it would help her. The princess has a lot to learn. The woman poured this water on the girl. Daphne asked her what she was doing. The woman said that she just wanted to help her wash up. Kale heard all of this. Edia noted that she should have dipped her face into this water, apparently. Kale went into the room and asked her what she said, and wondered if all the maids in the capital were trained to be rude. The woman was shocked and decided to say hello, but the man asked her again why she was being rude to the lady. Edia said that not at all, because the princess had not yet learned to behave, and she would teach her behind closed doors. Edia said that there was supposed to be another maid here. The Archduke told her to bring her here. They brought Rachel in, and she was very unhappy, and asked why they were bringing her here. They threw her on their knees. Edia said that she made her do it. Rachel had no idea what she was talking about. Edia started to say that she said she didn't want to do it, and forced her. The woman didn't understand at all where she heard such a thing. After all, she was sick and asked for her. Kale asked if the emperor was showing his respect to him by sending him pigs in the guise of servants. Kale ordered them all to be executed. Daphne asked him to spare her maids. After all, they are simply ignorant, so there is no need to judge them harshly. Daphne asked him not to kill them. The guy said that if that was the case, they needed to be replaced. They were no good as maids anyway. They will be servants in the citadel for a month, and will make up for lost time. Edia asked the Lord why such disfavor. After all, they are noblewomen. The Archduke looked at her with such anger that the woman became very frightened. Edia lowered her head and said that she understood everything. He drove them out of his sight. Daphne decided to ask his lordship why he had come. Kale said that he had come to show her the dining room. Daphne said she needed to get ready, so she apologized, but she'd be down soon. Mariel brought her clothes. She also said that she would wipe the floor. Daphne was already fully prepared and went down to the masters. When they came closer, the gentleman covered Daphne with his body, thereby separating her from Marielle. Kale said they would leave the maids outside the door because she needed maids after what happened. The girl said Marielle was a good servant. Kale said you'd think she trusted her. Daphne said that of course it wasn't. Well, she knew that Marielle couldn't betray her. She had such an opportunity, but she stopped it. Kale said that of course he said he would help her, so he wants her to answer the last question. He is very interested in why Her Highness hates the royal family. They paid bail for her and adopted her from an orphanage. All the orphans wanted to eat as much as they wanted and wear beautiful dresses. But sometime later, she learned that the orphanage had burned down. It is said that this was done by a robber to steal charitable donations. Everyone knew it was the emperor's doing, because he wanted to destroy the evidence. Kale asked for evidence and charitable contributions. Daphne said she didn't know what else they were up to. When she was brought to the palace, she was still of no use to anyone. That's how it was. This is the princess. She is just a pawn for the emperor. We will have to secretly check her words. Only then will he be able to break this fate that the royal family has imposed on them. And support is not bad. The Archduke said he would accept her support. Daphne said she would be happy to help him. The princess suggested that they eat and tell each other something else. They decided to talk about the economy of his region. The girl advised him to send expeditions to explore the deposits. But they will deal with the mines later. She would like to start looking for investors now. But the ore is too valuable to share. Besides, mining this ore is a very long process. The guy asked if she knew what he was talking about. The League said that most likely yes, because this is the maid settlement of Morton, where many blacksmiths live. The man noted that he had been there a long time ago, together with his parents, after which the Archduke said that there was enough talk because he wanted to go there right now. He said that he would return tomorrow by night, and that it would be better for her to stay here, everything for her safety. Daphne asked Marielle where the bracelet she asked her to buy was. Marielle immediately remembered and handed her the box with the bracelet. She packed it just in case. Daphne was very grateful. The wrapper was of course unnecessary. Marielle understood that she was up to something again, so she is very interested in what this time the girl came to the balcony, and the maid did not understand at all what she was doing. Daphne threw away the bracelet. She fell to her knees and screamed that her bracelet was missing, but she motioned to Marielle to keep quiet. The guards immediately burst into the room and asked her who had offended her. The men told the princess that they would help. She just had to tell her what happened. Dolna said with tears in her eyes that she dropped her favorite bracelet when she went out onto the balcony. This bracelet was given to her by her mother. She asked her mother to forgive her for this. The men started whispering and didn't understand what she was talking about because she was adopted. In that case, this bracelet was probably given to her by her real mother. I sent her to an orphanage because I couldn't feed her. The princess waited for her mother to return, but the emperor took her away. So this bracelet is her only consolation in the cruel surroundings of the imperial palace. She loved this bracelet so much she even named it Jane. The man asked the second one what was wrong with it. The guards told the princess not to cry because they would find him. The girl wiped her eyes and asked if she could go with them. The men looked at each other, and the girl sadly realized that she couldn't, and noted that in that case she would have to wait, just like she would wait for her mother. Then the man thought he was crazy, but he whispered to him that the commander had ordered them not to leave her alone. It's a problem, but how much he could do for the princess if he were allowed to go out. The commander told them that they had to look after the princess since my lord was away. They will stand guard at her chambers around the clock until the Archduke returns. The girl continued to say that her bracelet was the only thing she had left from her mother. One of the guards said that he was ready to find this bracelet for her and would go and ask the commander for permission. He suggested to the second that they go together, but he refused because he could not help but follow the instructions from above. The guard came happily and said that he had received permission from the commander. Therefore, he could go. Daphne was very grateful to Monsieur the Knight. The man said that she didn't need gratitude, but she couldn't leave him for a step. And her maid is not allowed with them. The commander only allowed the princess to leave. Marielle understood. The knight told her not to be sad, because he would definitely find her the bracelet she calls Jane. Daphne was very grateful the knight did not understand at all where everyone else was. They were patrolling the area. Daphne came up with the story with the bracelet, just to get out now is the time. Well, suddenly, they heard a scream, and that help, and a doctor were urgently needed. Daphne decided to ask the knight what was going on there. The man apologized and said that it was the internal affairs of the Kama Citadel, and he would have to find her priceless bracelet next time. Daphne sympathized and asked if she could help in this situation, But the man said no, and she shouldn't worry, because he would deliver the bracelet to her safe and sound, so she should return to her chambers. The knight apologized and ran off somewhere. Daphne noticed that this was Eggman's room. Eggman Bertrand. This is a relative of Kale, who has been seriously ill for a long time. Nobody knew what illness he had or how to treat it, so according to the plot, he was supposed to die. Thus, Kale was left without support in the future. In desperation, the Archduke would be forced to swear allegiance to Alan and Flora. Daphne needs to save Eggman to help Kale. She has no idea how long her milord has been unconscious. The knight asked if the doctor had been sent for yet. The man said that Lady Selma would be here soon, so he need not worry. Suddenly, the princess called out from behind them and said that she was ready and could help. The man was surprised and said that he told her to go back to her room. Daphne said that she realized that it was serious and she couldn't leave, so I asked what was wrong with this uncle. The girl thought he was sick with something. The knight tried to say something, but the commander stopped him and told the princess that it was none of her concern. The commander has already called the doctor, so she must return to her quarters immediately. Daphne said that if he was having difficulty breathing, feeling nauseous, or choking, she knew how to treat it. The princess said that she would help the doctor choose a medicine. Catet did not understand at all how she knew that Milord Eggman had such symptoms. Suddenly, the woman called the commander and asked him what was wrong with Milord Eggman. The princess asked her if she was a doctor and asked if she could help her prescribe medicine for the lord. She begged permission to help. The woman told Her Highness that they did not have time for this. She was not in the imperial palace. The emperor's power meant nothing here. The doctor told her not to try to command in such a situation because they had no time for her now. Daphne decided that she had to convince Selma to cure Eggman. Then, when she met the count, he gave her a whole set with many different medicines. There were magic scrolls and some powders. He cares about her so much, although she is essentially nobody to him. Coman is indeed her friend. The princess turned to the healer again, but she ignored her. The princess gave her a medicine that would cure the lord. Selma was surprised that she gave her some poisonous, oily berry. The princess was confirmed because it is indeed poisonous, but when dried it only causes a slight stomach upset. The commander asked her where she was speaking from and did not understand how they could believe it. Daphne said that it was used to treat a disease that had the same symptoms as my lord. She asked if they would believe her if she ate it. The girl could eat this much, but if she ate more, then death would occur. The men did not understand at all what kind of game for the public this was and what kind of blackmail this was. Or she was trying to prove to her that she was telling the truth. Well, what if she wants to poison my lord, even at the cost of her own life? Daphne said that if they didn't believe her, after they looked after him, she would suggest a test for poison content. The princess asked if she agreed, and the woman said that she could do as she pleased, but just not interfere with her now. The healer had finished the procedure for the milord, so she said that she could now give her her berry. She must know that if the test is positive, the family will perceive it as a declaration of war by the royal family. The princess agreed to this. The test showed that it was not poisonous, otherwise the paper would have changed color. Besides, the princess herself ate the berries now, and she is fine. Then, 2 proofs that the berry is not dangerous. The doctor reported that it confirms that the berry is not poisonous. Besides the chemical test, the princess's health is evident after eating the berry. She believes it. After my lord took these berries, the doctor noticed that his shortness of breath had stopped and he no longer had a fever. And his heartbeat is normal. She is sure that he will come to his senses soon. The doctor apologized to Her Highness for doubting her. She invited her to get to know her properly. Her name is Selma. She is the doctor of the Bertrand family. Daphne understands anyone who doubts the purity of the imperial family's intentions. That's why she's pleased to meet Selma. The princess is very glad that Milord is better. It will start in a couple of hours, as promised. She will tell her the recipe for the potion. The doctor decided to ask the princess where she knew this recipe from. The girl said that when she lived in the orphanage, she was given this potion. Shelter. Then she learned that the berries needed to be dried and so on. The commanders looked at all this and were surprised. The knight turned to the commander and asked him if he would say anything, since he should at least apologize to Her Highness. The man said that she was already leaving. The knight was upset that he had not found Jane for her. The man noted that if it were him, he would not trust this girl so much. He must understand that she could be sent to them by an enemy family in order to then start a war with them, after which he decided to ask what kind of Jane this was. He didn't know how to explain it to him, so he kept silent. He turned to the commander and said that he did not think that they would resort to such tricky tricks. Whatever they asked, she did not lie to them. He himself should even think, and there that such a small child does not know anything like that. The next day, the princess was asked how she was feeling, and she said that everything was fine. She promised a recipe for a potion. If she improves it, then it can be mass-produced for export, which will be a good profit. And it will also increase the prestige of the House of Bertrand. The doctor was in complete shock. She noted that it was very helpful. It would help the Bertrands solve their food problem. This really won't hurt them because the cold is getting worse and worse. The princess said that in that case, they need to hurry up with making this medicine. His lordship must know about this as soon as possible, mass production of the drug. The woman assumed that the princess really wanted to help them. She decided to tell them about the ingredients. Boretsky came to His Highness and reported that he had good news, because his father had woken up. When my lord woke up, everyone immediately bombarded him with questions about how he was feeling. The man realized that he had lost consciousness, so he asked how many days had passed. The servant said that this time, not even a day had passed. This is not surprising, because he feels much better. Kale burst into the room. The man asked if he was worried about him. The guy said that he was told that he had woken up. His father came to his senses so quickly, that's why he was so happy. His father called him a rascal and asked if he would like him to lie down for a couple more days. Kale told his father not to say that. The man made a serious face, then laughed and said he was just kidding. Kale decided to ask him how he was feeling. The gentleman said that he was feeling much better because before he even had difficulty sitting down, and now he does it with such ease. The servant told the milord to take care of himself because he can't get up yet. After all, he had just come to his senses, so he should wait with this. The man decided to ask his son how he was feeling. Kale noted that now it was great because his father was awake. The man understood that he was really worried about him, as if he was going to introduce himself really. The father noted that his son was afraid that he would go to hell to join his deceased wife. After listening to Her Highness, the healer realized that all these ingredients could be easily found in the lands of the Bertrands. She still cannot understand how she missed such important knowledge that the oily berry has strong healing properties. Winters here are harsh, and the Austrians know almost everything about the healing properties of this berry. The servant approached the lady healer and wanted to tell her something, and the woman asked him what he needed. The man said he had good news for her. The princess thought that Eggman had probably already woken up. The doctor asked Her Highness for permission to take her leave. Daphne knew why she was leaving. Lord Eggman woke up. The woman was in complete shock and did not understand how she found out about this, and confirmed to the princess that this was indeed so. Daphne is such a smart girl. The servant tried to say something to the doctor, but she told him that everything was as it should be. After which, the princess asked if she could go with them. The doctor said that of course she could. Daphne was very grateful and said that she wanted to see the Lord conscious. Selma was not at all against it and even invited her to go with her. The Lord was shocked with you that the princess wanted to help them. Kale said that she hated the imperial family with all her being. Since her intentions were no longer in doubt, he would ask to avoid misunderstandings. Lady Selma knocked and was immediately let in. The doctor was very glad to see him, and the man asked who the young lady next to her was. The man believed that this was their princess. Kale added that this was exactly it. Daphne asked permission to introduce herself, after which she gave her first and last name. Selma told my lord that Her Highness had brought the medicine that had helped him. She told her the recipe. If it weren't for Her Highness, the princess, she would never have known about such an effective potion. Kale was shocked with you, or rather that the princess saved his father. Eggman didn't even know how to thank Her Highness the princess. The man told her not to take offense, because he had just woken up and couldn't do anything yet. He is Lord Eggman, and he is very pleased to meet her. He also asks her to forgive him for not coming to greet her first. The man hoped that she was comfortable living in their house, and if something was missing, he asked her not to be shy and tell him. Daphne was very grateful to my lord for his concern. Kale told his father that he didn't have to worry because he was taking good care of Mrs. Daphne. The man became angry when he heard his son calling her that, and asked him if he could think of a more affectionate name for the princess. Kale said that he himself is already calling her officially. The man said that this is different because she is his wife, and he needs to support her and show that she is not family. They have to live together, so they need an affectionate nickname for the princess. Daphne was surprised that they were talking about such things. Suddenly, the old man called her baby. The princess was in complete shock. The father remarked that he really liked calling her baby. The doctor asked my lord if he thought it was a little impolite. Lord Eggman didn't understand what was wrong here, because the princess was still a child, so he didn't even know what else to call her. Daphne told Lady Selma that it was just a nickname, so there was nothing wrong with it, after which the woman apologized. Daphne turned to Kale and asked him to tell him. He sighed. Kale said he was very sorry for what his father said. Dad is very stubborn. Daphne wanted him to just forget because it was just a nickname. But grandfather said again that he welcomed the baby into their family. The dress fits the princess well. The maids prepared it for her after she had worn out many dresses. Mariel asked the lady if she liked it, after which the girl said that she liked it very much, and the size is perfect. Suddenly, someone knocked and asked Her Highness if they could come in. Daphne allowed it. Kale said he had a gift for her. The princess was very surprised, after which the Archduke asked her if she liked it. He brought a very large amount of clothes. Daphne said that she certainly liked it, but she didn't understand why he suddenly decided to give her so many outfits. Kale said that they had just gotten married the other day. Daphne knew it was because of that, so she thanked him profusely. They have to leave soon, so he will go, and she can get dressed in the meantime. The lady's dress had already been adjusted to her size. It was incredible it fit so well. Marielle remarked that it was wonderful. The reserve tailor is very skilled. Daphne wondered who he was. The clothes he makes are simply superb. She wants to know the name of this man, but she must go for the Archduke is waiting for her. The maid told Her Highness that she was ready, so they decided to go already, but Marielle said that Her Highness had forgotten something. When going out, you have to wear a wedding ring. Daphne wasn't very happy because she didn't want to wear it. He'll suffer for just an hour, and then he can go. At the ceremony, he and Kale were so shy that they didn't dare look each other in the eye, so she wonders if they will ever be able to. When she approached the gentleman, she asked if she had kept him waiting for too long. Kale said that this was not the case at all, and he dared to point out that her new dress suited her very well. He helped her into the carriage, but as they rode, it was very quiet. Yeah, there was still some awkwardness between them, so Daphne wondered if she should start a conversation. The princess turned to His Majesty and said that she was very grateful to him for the gift. All the dresses were excellent quality. Kale was very pleased that she liked them. The princess decided to ask the lord who the tailor was, who made such wonderful outfits. He said it was Sir Leon. Daphne was in complete shock. Kale pointed out that they said he was a tailor before he became a knight. She can't believe that such a big and strong guy is doing such delicate work. But why should a master like him become a knight? Talent is wasted. He was born into a tailor's family, so he had learned a thing or two. Daphne knew what he meant. The Archduke announced that they had arrived. When the princess came out, she was in complete shock at what she saw. After which, Kale asked Her Highness what she thought. Daphne said that it was very beautiful here. The guy noted that he really loved this place, because he often came here, and he was very glad that she liked it. Daphne would like to show this nature to all people. If so, she has an idea. She needs permission from the landowner. Suddenly, a man approached them and told the Archduke that his name was Rand Akmal, and he was waiting for him. The princess addressed him and introduced herself as Daphne Bertrand. He had heard that she had recently married his lordship. The girl confirmed it because it was true. He began to suspect because his lordship was not quite in his right mind. After which he asked the gentleman how he could marry a girl from the royal families. Kale didn't know what to say and mumbled. But suddenly, Daphne interrupted him, turning to Mr. Randy. The girl asked him how he talked to Archduke Bertrand. Rand, who noted that he did not advise the Archduchess to interfere, because these were the internal affairs of the Bertrand family. Daphne said that she too now bears the surname Bertrand, and he says that it is none of her business. Daphne does not want to quarrel, so she asks him to tell her about these lands. The man told them to follow him, because he can show them everything. In a whisper, Kale told Daphne that Akmal was a vassal of their family. The doctor said that, moreover, he has no right to talk to him like that. The boy said that Viscount Akmal was once a very good man. He took care of Kyle and raised him when his parents didn't have time to deal with him. Daphne said that in that case, he needed to be told that such behavior was inappropriate. Akmel told the Archduke that he had heard that his father was still delaying the appointment of an heir. Kale noticed that things were not going well for them, and he knew it. Monsters were plaguing their land, and my father has been constantly ill for the last 20 years. Doesn't he really understand why he couldn't appoint an heir all this time? Akmel remarked that he was afraid that his lordship still did not understand what it meant to take responsibility. Daphne turned to Rand and said that maybe he had a solution to this problem since he was so confident, and he only just started to deal with government affairs, so she was interested in what Akmel had been doing all this time. She is impudent. He said that they did not come here to look at the views, but to see how their subjects live, and to help them. Akmel that he had the impression that the Archduchess had a solution to all the problems. Daphne said that it was so, and she, for example, saved Lord Eggman, and he taking care of her husband only in words, therefore he does not deserve his title. Akmel was glad to hear that Lord Eggman was already better, and as for saving his subjects, he offered to take a look, and he suggests watching how she will set everything up here and help everyone. Daphne noted that he could watch her solve all the problems, and today at that. She is the princess of the capital Periun. Most of the people of Akame work in woodworking and handicrafts. Winter is getting longer, so the trees don't have time to grow. Daphne decided that she should go buy some little things and at the same time ask about the resources of the local mountains. The Archduchess changed in front of the gentleman, and she wanted to go to that store. The knight turned to Milady and asked her where she was going, but he did not stop her. The knight was worried that she would get lost in such a place. Daphne escaped anyway, and people started to greet her in the store. It's good that he didn't catch up with her. Daphne doesn't know if what she needs is sold here, but if not, she'll look elsewhere. Actually, the view was amazing. As the ice melted, the ground gradually became visible, but she heard that there was no water to be found there. Daphne heard that. People said that because of this, very few people live in that area. It's understandable, because no one will want to live there, and it looks like no one will buy this land, even for a pittance. Daphne approached them and asked what land they were talking about. Her father is an entrepreneur and bought land in this region, and she is worried that he may have chosen this bad place. The woman asked the girl if she had bought land in the highlands to the west of here. Another woman said that there was absolutely nothing to catch there because it was a desert, that's all. Her friend asked her why she was saying such things to a child. The mountainous area west of the city. This is the western border of the Viscounty of Akmela. Daphne said that if that was the case, then fortunately it was not the land her father had bought. The girl thanked them and walked away with a smile. The earthlings of the western border of the domain, who were of no use to anyone. This is exactly what she was looking for. Shit went on to look at what the store offered. There's a small selection of explosive stones here. Well, if you combine them in a certain order, it'll do just fine. But she figured this basket would probably be enough. She went up to the salesperson and asked how much it would cost. She bought the ingredients. All that was left was to find a place to combine them. If only she had a place where she could be alone. Suddenly, someone called out to the princess, and she looked back and saw that same knight there. He started asking Daphne where she had disappeared to. He was so scared when she ran and disappeared from sight. The Archduchess apologized for running off like that, after which the sir asked what she had there, and then he offered to help her with transportation. Daphne said that it was just shopping. The knight noted that she had bought quite a lot, but he did not understand at all why she left. If she had gone with my lord, he would have bought her everything she wanted and taken care of the delivery. Daphne said that she seemed to have lost her head when she saw beautiful things and made a mistake, probably. The knight said that it was his fault that he had missed her escape, and then he suggested that she return because they were already waiting for her. Kale asked the princess where she had gone. The Archduchess and the knight were already approaching. Daphne said that she was so engrossed in looking at the shop window that she couldn't help but run away from Sir Leon, so she asks for forgiveness. She's been out for a walk for the first time in a long time, and she's caused so much trouble. Kale said that it was nothing special, because the main thing was that Leon found her before dark. Akmel turned to his lordship and said that he thought the Archduchess needed to be taught how to behave. Daphne said she admitted her mistake. She knew he would blurt something out. It was getting late, so they had to get back to the estate. They walked closer to the carriage. The Archduke turned to Daphne. He hoped that she would not do this again. That is, go somewhere alone. He was angry with her, so Daphne decided to apologize for her bad behavior. But Kale said that wasn't the case. He was worried about her safety. Next time, he'll ask her to be careful. Does he really care about Daphne? Formally, he is her husband and is obliged to bear responsibility for her. After these words, Davna understood what was going on. The maids asked the mistress to rest before the meal. They would come and call her. Daphne decided she had to do it before dinner. She didn't have time for anything else. They need to be ground and dried, so it will be easier to carry around. But suddenly, someone turned to the Archduchess. It was the maid, and she said that the meal was already served. Daphne was surprised with you that everything happened so quickly, and it was reported that she would soon come down. The woman was about to leave, but the princess asked her not to forget to wash her hands. Akmal said his chefs had worked hard, and he hoped they enjoyed the dinner. Daphne thanked the Viscount for his hospitality. She wanted to ask what the plans were for tomorrow, because she had somewhere to go. The man said he had no plans. Daphne noted that if that was the case, she wondered if he would be willing to show her the western mountain region. Akmal noted that there was nothing to see there, and suggested that they take her to another place. But the girl said that they would go there. Kale made it clear that he respected his wife's wishes and asked him to fulfill this request. Akmal hoped that they would not fail in their attempts to avoid, to which the newlyweds remained silent and continued their meal. Daphne remarked that it was so nice here, very picturesque. Then she approached her husband. Here, he didn't quite understand what was going on, and she asked if he remembered their first dinner together in the citadel. Kale said that he certainly remembered. That meant construction should begin in this settlement. The only thing this area exports is wood, so he's not quite sure what she's going to do with it. She should have said it was the perfect place to open hot springs. Suddenly, the Viscount turned to her and asked Her Highness where she saw hot springs here. Daphne noticed that he seemed to have forgotten what she had told him yesterday. Akmal says that this is absolutely not so, after which the princess said that if she finds a way to feed her subjects, he will be obliged to bow down to her. The Viscount said that she could now begin to act, but if she could do nothing, she could no longer interfere in the Bertrands' affairs. Daphne agreed to these conditions and said that since they had Akmal's permission to use his land, the Viscount decided to ask what she was going to do. Daphne said that, in principle, nothing. She used a strange ball that started to explode. Everyone was completely short, especially the Viscount. He ran up to the princess and asked her what she was doing, and he believed that she wanted to kill everyone. Well, when he looked into the distance, he saw that water began to flow from there. The knight noticed that there really was a hot spring here, but he didn't understand at all how the Archduchess knew that they were here. Kale also didn't understand at all how she knew where the groundwater was. After which, Daphne asked the Viscount if he had forgotten his promise. The man stood there in a rage. Long ago, she pointed her finger at the floor and said that he should kneel before her. That's it! Vikund had to kneel before the princess. The man said that he had made a mistake and would accept any punishment because he deserved it. Daphne said that in that case, he must swear faithful service to his lordship. This is his punishment. The man was in complete shock when he heard this. He said I deserved it because he had not been with his lordship for many years, and the Archduchess wants him to be by his side and be his advisor. Such a punishment is exactly what he deserves. The girl noted that the Viscount was truly unbearable. The Archduke is in mortal danger from the imperial family, and he must be grateful to her that she did not treat him more harshly for leaving His Highness alone. The man stood up and apologized to Kale for his stupidity. He did not dare ask for his forgiveness, but asked for permission to serve him faithfully. The Archduke agreed and noted that he had left the palace at the most difficult moment, and in order to apologize properly, he should help Daphne build a health resort at the hot springs. Akmal was grateful and offered to go back. Daphne was very pleased that she had managed to convince him. She did a great job. She should have been grateful to her husband for such a compliment. Kale noted that this was the second time she had helped him. Daphne informed him that it was her duty as Archduchess. The guy turned to Daphne and asked her if she had planned it early. After all, he thought so. Daphne admitted that she had eavesdropped at the market for information about the place and found out exactly where the hot spring was. Kale was surprised by this and noted that she actually shared everything with him. Well, then he would share with her, too. Daphne stood there in anticipation. Kale figured she'd probably heard about him being immortal. Of course. The Archduke said it was true, and his mother died for him. He still remembers the day he killed her. Kale drank a potion to fight the curse, but it didn't help. He didn't know it then. But when she appeared, everything became clear to him. That the royal family hides many secrets. So he asks her not to act again without warning him. He said there was a reason for it, so Daphne agreed to it. Kale added that he regretted saying that to her, and added that she was probably tired, so she could go to her quarters. Daphne understood him and went to her room. She began to remember her brother's words about how he knew she would succeed. And when Flora said she was her good luck charm, she tried so hard. She helped her brother a lot, and Flora also thinks that he should kill her, so she shouldn't be offended. Daphne knew that if she trusted him, she would die again, so she decided that she would not trust him. Suddenly, someone turned to Milady and asked her what had happened since the Archduchess was crying. The commander asked if he should call the doctor. Daphne didn't understand how he got there. Daphne asked what happened. The man said it was late, but he couldn't come in to apologize. The princess didn't quite understand what he wanted to apologize for. Lately he had been constantly doubting her, and was not polite. Daphne said that he shouldn't worry, because he was just doing his duty. He may not apologize, because at first no one trusted her at all. Because she is a princess from the imperial family. The captain said that she had nevertheless done a great deal for them, and they continued to suspect her. Daphne wanted them to forget about it, and pointed out that they should have just accepted his apology. So having informed Sir Wessler that she accepted his apology, she asked him to never cease checking his lordship's surroundings. The captain didn't quite understand what she meant. Daphne said that he was a knight captain, and the closest bodyguard in the Bertrand family. The life of the Archduke depends on his strength and vigilance. The man noticed that this girl is incredibly gifted. Everyone suspected her, but she was not afraid. Amazing courage and foresight. He must honor her. Sir Wessler swears to serve her faithfully and truly. Daphne feels uneasy, as if she was trusted with just one word. The servant asked the child if she liked the dish. Daphne was a little embarrassed by such expressions towards her. The Archduke will be coming for dessert, so the lady must be ready, the maid told her. It's incredible, even the servants call her baby. The reason for all this is Lord Eggman. He suggested that everyone call her baby. Daphne noted that this was outrageous, and she needed to do something about it. Kale noted that the reception would start soon, so he would go to the guests, while she could watch this for now. When the girl looked, you realized that this was a plan of the Bertrand Citadel. Kale asked her to slowly learn it by heart, and added that he had known it since childhood. Daphne wasn't quite sure how he remembered it. Kale said his father told him it was a maze problem, and he had to solve it. He begs her to take a good look before the guests arrive. The Bertrands want to show her off to high society. But since the ball wasn't suitable for the child, they replaced it with a dinner party. Kale noted that she needn't worry, because he would be there. He knew the local nobility well, and he sent them an invitation. If there is anything needed, she can come. Daphne turned to Marielle and asked if she was still friends with him and the maids. The woman confirmed this and told her that even if they quarrel, they are still her close friends. She also asked if Milady had already chosen a day. If they succeed, then I and Marielle will have to act. That's right. Daphne understood her and informed her that she had a task for her. Marielle noted that if she could not cope with a difficult task, then she could help hers. If only she knew Daphne handed her an envelope and asked her to buy these fabrics and deliver them to Sir Leon's home. First of all, the maid must take care of what she asked Leon to bring. This is the list of places at the reception. All the seats were correctly arranged, according to the status of the guests. Marielle did not understand how this was possible, because just recently, she did not understand anything about ethics. The maid said what would be done and began to leave. Daphne was pleased to hear this. The men were surprised when they first saw the dark palace. They wondered if it was true that the girl the Archduke had married was actually adopted by the imperial family and an orphan. Now he believes the explanation for why she was not shown to high society for 8 years. She is simply uneducated. Another man heard that many teachers had worked with her, but all in vain. Some of them even refused to work with her. What can you expect from a commoner who was locked up at the age of 8? She is not one of them. They must be indulgent towards the Archduchess and try to suppress a smile if she asks how to use a knife. Suddenly, a woman appeared behind them and addressed the gentleman, saying that they had not yet met, either the Archduke or the Archduchess, so they had better choose their expression. The man noted that Lady Vantel was as always perceptive. The man turned to the ladies and gentlemen and asked them to follow him. The doors opened and the lady began to greet them. Daphne turned to the dear guests, who had come from afar, and began to welcome them to the Bertrand's house. Her name is Daphne Bertrand. The Archduke came out with her and introduced himself. He greeted the guests in the dark palace. The men remarked that it was such an honor to meet the Archduke and Archduchess. Daphne said that they should follow her. She introduced them to their great hall. The aristocrats were in complete shock because it was so beautiful. They could not believe that the gentlemen themselves painted this hall. Daphne noted that she did it. Not by herself, of course, and she had help, for example, Lord Eggman. And Lord Eggman turned to her and asked what he was helping her with, since their little girl had done everything herself. Daphne was embarrassed by this. The aristocrats were shocked by the way he called her. The Lord noted that he had not met with high society for a long time, but he decided to introduce himself as well, and hoped that they would be pleased with his daughter-in-law's dinner party. The men noticed that he loved his daughter-in-law so much. That's what family ties are. The man who had said bad things to them before entering was not happy. The aristocrats said they had heard that the Archduchess had helped him recover. On the subject of rumors flying fast, she who so humiliated his fiancée Rachel now laughs shamelessly. She is a little bitch. The lady decided to ask his lordship what kind of trees were growing in his garden. This is a winter tree. She has seen many products made from local wood carriages, furniture, but the processed wood is not as beautiful as in nature. You see, Countess Winter Wood loses its luster when it leaves the Bertrand lands. People did not expect it to be so beautiful. Apparently they thought that their trees were no different from those that grow in warmer climates. She had just learned how beautiful their forests were, after which he remarked that it would be wonderful to take a walk there. Daphne suggested that they go for a walk and swim in the hot springs, and then ask them how they liked the idea. People have heard about this. His lordship wants to build a health resort with hot springs in Akmel. Daphne noted that everything was exactly like that, and she would ask for special privileges when this health resort was built. Afterwards, the ladies, one by one, began to ask for them too, after which the former maids approached them. They noticed that the princess was already luring nobles into her new project. The guests were seated according to status, so there was no fault to be found here. If so, perhaps she also knew that he was engaged to Rachel. Now he understood. Daphne thought that this fool thought she didn't know. Count Coman told her about Count Hinsa. Suddenly the countess gasped, after which Hinsa immediately asked her what had happened. Her earring got caught in her hair. The man noticed that she was hurt, and she had better take off this jewelry. The woman said she would have to, and added that she had not been out in public for a long time. Hinsa noted that her earrings were simply lovely. The countess noted that this was indeed the case, since it was their family heirloom, and had been passed down to her by her grandmother. They are priceless. Kale said he would call the healer. The woman said he needn't worry, because she doesn't want to ruin the atmosphere for them. It's nothing, she can put some balm on them later, and that's it. Suddenly, Daphne noticed that the maid was touching her mistress's earrings, and decided that she had to scold the servant for this. It's strange, but for some reason, these two are inactive. They would probably want to harm her and Marielle at this dinner. Lydia reported that she liked everything very much. Daphne felt a great relief and asked the countess to be careful and wished her a good journey. Nothing happened, but suddenly the woman asked to wait. The count did not understand at all what was going on. The countess shouted that one of her Serioja was missing. Daphne came closer and asked what had happened. The woman told her that a relic left by her grandmother had disappeared. Count Hinsa asked permission to stay and help Daphne. Of course allowed him. She left the maid's earrings, but only one in the box. Daphne asked her if the woman remembered what the maid she had entrusted the jewelry to looked like. The countess said she remembered her Kale ordered the servants to be called here. The countess immediately recognized the servant who took her earrings. He approached her and asked her where she kept Mrs. Bunton's earrings. The girl said that she had indeed been entrusted with their safekeeping. But then she gave them to the princess's maid. She said she would look after them. Marielle was shocked and didn't understand what she was talking about. After all, she hadn't even seen this maid. The countess approached her and asked her name. Marielle introduced herself. This is the daughter of Viscount Libert Count Hinsa, noted that there are rumors about this family that they have a lot of debts. Marielle informed him that they had long since paid off their debts, after which another woman approached Lady Bantens. This is Edia Brinton, and she came from the capital. Muriel just has some bad habits from her childhood, but she's not bad at all. The Countess was surprised and asked again what it meant. Daphne realized that it seemed that Rachel and Edia had come up with a cunning plan. If Marielle's reputation is damaged, her reputation may suffer as well. Cale said that Mrs. Bantine is a very important person to their family. Daphne knew about this, just as she knew that Marielle hadn't stolen anything, so she didn't have to worry. After all, this matter will certainly only bring benefits to her and to my Lord Bertrand. The Countess ordered Her Highness to search Lady Liebert. Daphne said she would do so. The earring was nowhere to be found, so the Countess began screaming and asking Marielle where she had hidden it. The maid said that she really didn't know anything. The Countess remarked that if she returned her, she wouldn't make a scandal. Daphne noted that it was strange that only Seryoshka was missing. The Countess was indignant because she was trying to justify the maid, but the girl said that this was not the case, because if she wanted to sell them, she would have stolen both, so it is completely unclear why she took only one. She herself saw the maid point at Lady Liebert. Daphne said she saw it, and she wasn't going to deny it. Afterwards, she turned to Count Hinsu and asked if Marielle had really stolen the earring where she could have hidden it. The man noted that there was one place in mind. There was a high probability that she would hide it in the mistress's dressing room. Among the clothes or decorations, Marielle told Daphne that she really didn't do anything. Nada told her to be quiet. Daphne suggested looking for jewelry in the dressing room. There is nothing here. If there is no mistress in the room, then it is worth checking all the maids' rooms. But suddenly, someone asked to stop. It was Rachel I was telling you, might have been overlooked. We need to search everything again. Cale was shocked that she wanted to say that Bertrand's knight had carried out the order in bad faith. Daphne turned to him and said that if necessary, he could search her room again, and then it would be worth checking all the maids' rooms. The women didn't understand at all why she wasn't there. No matter how much they search, she is not here, so the knight will search the maids' rooms. Suddenly, the man found Mrs. Bunton's earring. The Countess was very pleased, and the women did not understand at all why she ended up not in the princess's room, but in theirs. So Seryoshka was in the maid's room. Rachel said that Maria wanted to accuse them of something they didn't do. Marielle said the lady was not even close to that place. Apparently, she was in the kitchen and watching the treats. How strange that Maria did not receive Mrs. Bunton's jewelry. Perhaps the maid got something mixed up since Marielle and Edia have similar hair colors. The maid, nevertheless, said that she seemed to have mixed something up and gave the earrings not to this maid, but to Edia. The maid was mistaken because of the hair color, and this is definitely the same woman's. The maid was so busy that she didn't notice the clothes. Edia, horrified, asked what she was talking about. Rachel stood up for her and said that Edia couldn't do such a thing. So don't blame Marielle on others. Bulanka began to tell her not to arm herself like that because she had definitely seen it. Daphne asked Rachel and Edia why they always did this. Last time they poured ice water on her, and this time they were bargaining over another man's jewelry. The Countess was in complete shock and asked if they had really poured ice water on Her Highness. Daphne said that they themselves knew that it was her fault, that the maids were poorly trained. The lady couldn't understand at all how the maid could do such a thing. It was such inappropriate behavior. Cale said he wasn't going to tolerate this anymore. They were warned and they didn't even repent of what they did. Rachel Diodor and Edia Brinton have crossed all boundaries this time. The women began to say that they obeyed His Majesty. Cale said that this was Bertrand's territory, after which he ordered the guards to lock them both in the dungeon. Rachel began to ask him to wait because she had done nothing. The Archduke told her not to make excuses. Rachel turned to the Count, who told her to wait a little. Hintz said he agreed that Mrs. Rachel had been rude, but in fact she had done nothing. Cale didn't understand at all what the point was in keeping ill-mannered maids who wouldn't even hug me when I warned them. Judging by the way he defends her, he is not afraid of prison, either. Daphne said that this Count is engaged to Sir Eichel, and naturally, he is concerned about this issue. If he dared to oppose the Archduke's decision, it meant that he was ready to say goodbye to the title of Count. If not, then it would be better for him to apologize to Marielle and retreat. Hintz agreed and said that he seemed to have misunderstood everything and apologized to Lady Liberty. Miss Rachel was his fiancée, so he had a preconceived notion. Maria said there was nothing wrong with that. The Countess was very grateful to Her Highness for finding her earring, after which she asked how she could thank her. Daphne was glad that her valuable thing had been found. It was very cold in the dungeon, but Idea decided that this did not mean anything. If the Emperor is not informed, he will surely realize that something has happened to them and send a man to help. Daphne noted that it was a pity, but this would not happen because for the Emperor, they were just pawns. Rachel started screaming at her not to lie in the form of the Emperor. He promised them the places of princesses. Daphne asked ironically if they believed him, because even if it came to an engagement with the princes, their families would simply use them and then throw them away as unnecessary. Well, the women said that they did have families. Daphne said that their families couldn't help them because Count Diodorus and Count Brinton were broke. But she can give them a chance. Naturally, only one of them. The women were surprised that they only thought about one. After which, Marielle approached her, and the lady asked her if she wanted to choose which of them would get the chance. Previously, Daphne said that she intends to go down to the dungeon. It is cold there, so she asks Marielle to prepare warm clothes. The maid did not understand at all why she wanted to go there. The princess said that it was to meet her friends, although she did not consider them as such. Daphne knows she doesn't want to date him. It's written all over her face. But she doesn't think she should miss out on a good show that will see one of them disappear forever. Marielle's went over what would happen if the rest continued to cause trouble. Daphne said that this would never happen again. Apparently, she would make it so that she would not even have the opportunity to think about it. Maria decided to ask which of the two she wanted to leave in the castle. Daphne said that it was up to her to decide, since she knew them better than anyone. The women shouted at Marielle that she had betrayed them. Daphne said that they were friends, and that Morel, on the contrary, really wanted to help them. She told them so many things about them, and they should be grateful to her. Rachel had no idea what it all meant, and asked Marielle if she thought she could get away with it. Maria had just cried and asked for help. Daphne told her not to deceive herself. They seemed to think that she acted of her own free will, but they were very much mistaken because it was the princess who made her behave this way. The women were in complete shock. The princess laughed at how gullible they were. If they had behaved like ladies, they wouldn't be sitting here now. Well, it's too late now. Daphne doesn't care whether they die here or not. She'll still let one of them out. So Marielle must decide whether it is better to free Idia or Rachel. Rachel started telling Marielle that she was wrong and said that she knew she didn't do it on purpose. Idia also began to ask for forgiveness for what happened. She just had circumstances. Rachel asked Marielle to bring her something to drink and then poured tea on her. Marielle became painful and hot. The girl just told her to wipe up the spilled tea. And if there is no money, then you should at least do this kind of work. Idia said that she was very interested in how her situation was in the family and whether everything was normal there. And if not, then she could work for them for now. And her parents and relatives will be able to live in her house. There will be hot food and even desserts every day. Poor Maria, you can't steal someone else's, the poor servant Marielle. Marielle said that she couldn't decide, so she asked the lady to make the decision. Daphne was surprised and said that there was nothing to be done about it. She took the bell and said that she would leave it there. Let one of them who is ready to obey her ring this bell. The women immediately reached for him, and a fight began. Daphne watched this with a smile. Daphne said that she would only free Idia. Rachel was very angry. Rachel began to think that if it weren't for that little creature, she would be free now. It was all because of her. Because of this little princess, her life went downhill. She began to reach out to Daphne. The woman tried to swing at her mistress, but the guards stopped her and began asking the princess if she was okay. Rachel screamed that they wouldn't get away with this, that she wouldn't remain silent. There was no way she was going to let this go. Idia survived, however. If the information about the ruin of the family and the emperor's disfavor is true, then she does not understand at all what will happen to her. Daphne turned to Idia and said that she promised to obey her, so she would help her. She ordered the woman to send a letter to the Earl of Brinton that she, Daphne Bertrand, intended to pay the family's debts. The girl asked with tears in her eyes if this was true, and Daphne confirmed it because she is a generous person. Daphne pointed out that Idia should also not forget her promise to serve her. The woman was immediately delighted. The princess will help her stay in the castle and work here. but she still has many other things to do. She will report the temperature, what she tells her, and now she can quickly return to her room and start writing a letter. Adia was very grateful and ran to her room. Daphne was very happy because she had sorted out the urgent matters. Daphne saved Lord Egmont, distracted the Emperor, and found the hot springs. The Diodorus family will not simply tolerate the Brintons being the only ones to emerge unscathed from this situation. Enemies must be dealt with by enemies. Their complete ruin must be ensured. Rachel could not believe that this was true, and did not understand why she should endure such humiliation. Rachel had no idea what she had done. The guards forced her to her knees. She turned to them and said that her hands were very sore and she would obediently follow, so she asked them to let go of her hands for at least a little while. They agreed and said that they would let her go, but only until the exit and she could follow them. Maria thought that these two would never apologize in their lives. Somehow everything worked out well, and she even liked it. However, for some reason, she has this feeling that it is about to happen. It seems she has realized, and it is all because of her. The lady helped her, but she has no right to receive this help. She too had always been kind, but at some point she adopted the behavior of these two. Mariel decided that she needed to apologize to the lady, and then she decided that she would try her best to return the money that she had stolen from her. Oh, we must ask her to leave it near her, because now she is her mistress. Mariel turned to the lady and tried to say something. Daphne did not understand at all what was wrong with her. So the princess told her to stop mumbling and tell her what the problem was. Mariel said that she actually wanted to tell her something, but suddenly she heard Rachel screaming that Daphne was a shameless commoner. Finally, she found her. Rachel didn't understand at all how she dared to disgrace her. She held the stone in her hands and asked the princess if she thought she could get away with it. Not this time. She tried to attack her with a stone. Even if she died, she would take her with her. Well, Mariel stood in front of her. Rachel smashed her head. Mariel's last words were a request for forgiveness from her mistress for everything. If she could have apologized earlier, she should have treated her well from the beginning. By evening, she noticed that it was a wonderful sight, because Mariel had betrayed them and then joined the commoner. They shouldn't have fought, but the guards immediately ran up and grabbed Rachel. The woman screamed that she couldn't just die like that, giving up on her with ease. But Mariel worried her more. Cale was shy when Daphne came into his room. The guy asked her for forgiveness, then asked if he could come in. He had heard that her maid was wounded. She must have noticed that it seemed Sir Wessler had told him. Daphne didn't understand why Mariel did this. If she died, she would be free. She could just stand aside and watch, or hold on to the Emperor. But she then opened her eyes and asked for forgiveness for everything, and for the fact that she took out her anger on her. She realized that it was wrong to do that, so she asks for forgiveness. She also said that she might not forgive her. Daphne said that she seemed to be a fool. These could be her last words, and she wastes energy on such conversations. After these words, she still won't forgive her. But one thing can be promised. She will never leave her first. It all happened very quickly. Well, the doctor said the wound wasn't deep. Daphne was a little scared, though Cale noted that he'd heard she was in danger too. After her order, some events started happening every day. So the guy is interested in what is going on in her little head. Daphne was that he was worried about her. Cale did not understand at all why she came to the north, which did not suit her at all. Cale wondered what was hiding behind that innocent expression, and what plans were filling her head, and whether she really hated the imperial family. If he, as I promised, kills the entire imperial family, and then something terrible happens. Daphne told my lord that if he was worried about her, there was no need because she was fine. The princess is not injured. Cale did not understand at all what it was, because he felt warmth in the area of the heart. Did she really excite him that much? But the guy snatched his hand and decided that it was impossible. He decided that he was just interested in her abilities. Not her. Cale told her to just take care of herself. She asked for one who could suppress his curse. He turned to the miss and said that she was first of all the Emperor's daughter. Daphne didn't quite understand what it was, and thought that he simply decided to lecture her. Daphne said she knew that very well. Daphne thought he meant that if something serious happened to her, the Emperor would come here. She was speechless. However, she has some good news. She has dealt with those two unfaithful maids. For the time being, she will be able to remain out of the Emperor's sight. Moreover, It seems that she managed to resolve the issue with provisions in Botron. 2 days later, the man greeted Earl Brinton at Botron Castle. Edia wrote to her father that Archduchess Bertrande had promised to help their family, and therefore asked him to come here as soon as possible. The father rushed over as soon as he received the letter from his daughter, but the Archduke had no reason to help him. Perhaps he had something in mind. Be that as it may, he cannot go down in history as the Earl with whom the Brinton line ended. He must obtain the Archduke's help by any means necessary. The commander informed their lordship that the Count had arrived. The man was shocked because these were some youngsters, not at all what he heard. The man said that he should take off the blanket and show respect. The man greeted the Archduke and decided that he was lucky. The deity itself helped him. She sent him such young brats. Among all the other contracts, there were documents for the Count's estate in quite decent condition. The man confirmed this and noted that he had deliberately chosen the best since he had offered quite a large sum of money. And it's true, if the house goes up for auction, all the riffraff will immediately fly off. Daphne said it looked a bit meager. The man didn't understand why the Archduchess would say that, since that was all that belonged to the Brinton family. She said that it was a wasteland, and she wanted this land from the Count. Among the property belonging to the Count, there was one land that he did not give up as collateral. It's a lonely area with no roads, so no one has ever traveled there. Mainton Heath. Thanks to the efforts put in, the wasteland has become fertile again, and anyone would covet it. The reason so few people knew about the rich wheat fields on these lands was because the Count had carefully hidden it from prying eyes. The Count began to ask what she was saying, because this area is just a bare wasteland, nothing more. It is in a disastrous state, but still wants to save this land. Daphne said that if she knew about it, then it was just a matter of time before information about it reached the Emperor himself. The reason he hid this plot is because of taxes. A man with a Count's diploma deceived the Emperor himself because of some taxes. He also violated the ban on the export of wheat during a lean year and entered into deals with other countries. If His Majesty finds out about this, bankruptcy alone won't be enough. The man begged the Archduchess to save him because it was only 5 or 6 years ago. Daphne was very happy because she just wanted to test the waters, but in the end, she revealed his secret. The man was shocked with you that this little girl was mocking an adult. Kale turned to the Count and said that if he humbly gave them this wasteland, they would hush up the matter with the wheat. The Count said that it was still problematic, but immediately after that, he closed his mouth and agreed. Those little devils, they said they would help him. The next morning, Daphne came to her maid, who asked how she was doing. The princess presented the deeds to Mainton Heath, which I had received from the Earl of Brinton. I was shocked to see it and asked if it was true. Daphne confirmed this and noted that he also gave away a cornfield to boot. Now they could eat their fill of delicious corn. Mariel was simply delighted because the lady had done so much for her. Well, actually, it wasn't like that. Although the girl decided not to deny it and asked her if she was okay, Mariel was shocked and asked again. Daphne said that she was talking about her head and asked again if it hurt. The maid said that she was ill, but when she saw her mistress, that is, she immediately felt better. Daphne didn't understand what was wrong with her. Marielle noted that she was, of course, curious about Mrs. Bunton's earring. She didn't understand at all how it happened that she found it in Edia and Rachel's room. They must have hidden it among Marielle's things. Daphne understood what she was talking about and said that she found it at Marielle's and hid it in their room. To be more precise, she ordered, and Sir Leon carried out her order. So when she meets him, she must remember to thank him. It seems that there is nothing left of her anger. Daphne noted that she would be away from the castle for a while, after which Marielle came running in shock. The princess said that she was going on a picnic, and while she was away, she had to take care of her health, and when she returned, there would be no time to rest. Marielle said Madame that she would definitely recover as soon as possible. It seems that the head injury affected her thought process. A maid came to Daphne and said that she had found a suitcase in Miss Marielle's room, and in it were the princess's things. Here are the things she left for her to keep, so she didn't throw them away. The maid asked what to do with them. Daphne told her to just take them to Marielle's room. She remembered how Marielle asked for forgiveness for everything, but she took out her anger on her and said that the lady might not forgive her. Daphne didn't understand at all what to do with her and why she told her this at all. The main character knew that she couldn't trust people, Otherwise, they might betray her and leave her to die. It happened in Korea and in her past life. And it's happening again. She said a long time ago that these were her things, so she would take them for herself, and the maid need not worry. Several years ago, when she was still living in Korea, she found herself in the plot of a fantasy novel. Life outside the book, her life in reality was like a real hell. Her mother left this world when she was little, so she didn't even have any memories of them. My father died, leaving behind huge debts from a failed business. The uncle who had initially acted as her father suddenly betrayed her. He took everything she had and disappeared. The main character was left in her 20s, in debt, hatred, and hopelessness, but she set a goal to survive at any cost. After more than 10 years, she managed to pay off that debt. Although it seemed impossible, her cough did not stop. The day it all ended, she bought a new blanket. It was a gift to herself. It was so warm. Now she is truly free. Kirill noticed that she was strange. She came to the castle on the emperor's orders, told him to kill the entire imperial family and take the throne. At first, he took it for a trap set by the emperor, who had guessed his plan, or a warning for him to sit in the castle and not stick his head out unnecessarily. However, he observed her and found out that she had a great desire to take revenge on the emperor. She may have been beaten. It looks like it. An orphan from the common people, but the emperor personally brought her into the palace. Well, those maids from noble families, who were sent from the imperial palace, did not hide their contempt for her, although the archduke does not think that she treated them any differently than in the palace, and this does not give him peace. Lord Eggman added that it was getting hot, and suggested that it was because of the fire that was burning in his son's eyes. He thought that his son couldn't stop admiring her, and he began to ask when it had started. Kirill said that it was not at all what he thought. The father wondered why he had decided to go on a picnic in such windy weather. He decided to disguise his honeymoon as a picnic. Kale assured him that it was nothing of the sort. Eggman told him to be quiet, otherwise he would wake up his wife. He asked his son what he thought Daphne was like. Kale said he didn't know Dad was surprised with you, that he didn't feel she was different from the others. 13 is pretty young. At this age, they talk a lot about ordinary people, but also about aristocrats, the emperor. And they are also capricious and irritable a lot. But she is smart and extraordinary beyond her years. You quickly understand what is what, and thanks to her insight, she is already thinking about the future. The father noted that Kale was not like this 2 years ago at the same age. He was surprised that his son did not feel anything when looking at her. Kale said he didn't even know, and asked if his father wanted to tell him to be kind to her because she was so sweet and smart. Eggman denied this because he meant that she was special and had something that others did not. And their meeting was facilitated perhaps not by a person, but by some divine force. Divine power. Kale is not interested in such nonsense. So he asked his father what kind of mystical talk this was. He thought to me that his father would start saying such boring things. Now the Lord understood how it sounded to him. Whatever the case, he has confidence in this girl. Who knows? Maybe thanks to her new times will come to their family. Perhaps this girl was sent to them not by the gods who cursed them, but by his mother, the former Archduchess Bertrand. It sounds dubious, but the fact that the illegitimate one turned out to be very smart is true. However, what her true intentions are, and where she got the village that holds back his curse, is unclear. He cannot be sure that she was not sent by the emperor. It would be too hasty to perceive her as a person close to him, although if he is of this opinion, he will not argue with his father. It would be better not to go against her, but to play along as much as possible in order to better understand what is going on in her head, and then you can decide whether to reject it or accept it. Daphne was sweating all over because she was so hot. When she heard this noise and smell, she realized that she was near the sea. She was shocked with you that they had probably already arrived, but she remembered that they were not familiar with the heat. Southern lands, coastal Merguns. The knight was in complete shock that this is the same young sea. For the first time in his life, Leon sees a sea that is not covered with ice. Eggman noted that he felt such a refreshing breeze and added that it was hot today, so he suggested taking a little rest here. The knight was very grateful to him. The man was very happy because he would finally be able to be in silence. But when he looked to the side, he saw that his son and daughter-in-law were still in the carriage with him. He said that since that was the case, they should go on a date and kick them out of the carriage. He said they should let the old man rest. They looked at each other in silence. After which, Daphne suggested that he take a walk along the coast, as Mr. Eggman had advised. Kale decided to go for a swim. When Daphne saw him, she was in complete shock. And she noted that it was not for nothing, that in the novel, he was a competitor of the main character. She seemed to be looking at him too hard. She began to pretend she wasn't looking. Kirill noticed that she looked thoughtful again, so he was very interested in what she was thinking about so seriously. He turned to the miss and asked if she could catch that swindler, since that was why they came here. A few days ago, Castle Bertrand. She said she couldn't take the land from the Earl of Brinton without paying him. He found himself in this situation. Because of that same swindler, Daphne was 100% sure of her words. The Count did not understand at all how she found out about this. There is information about investments that have recently shaken the whole society. A new type of crystal has been discovered that contains much more magical power than ordinary crystals. And he immediately invested in these mines. He had a hard time getting the money, but most likely he did not spare the money in the hope of profit. After all, the Count hoped to make a profit from these crystals. But the goods he received turned out to be just a fake, which turns into something similar to jelly as soon as you put it in water. There were no magic crystals to begin with. The Count was shocked with you that rumors were already circulating about this. At this rate, his family would suffer a collapse from which it would not be able to recover. But he and the Duke would be able to find this swindler, after which Daphne asked him what he thought about it, on condition that he would give up the Mainton Heath as collateral and pay for the capture of the fraudster with a field of sugarcane. The man said that it was excellent, and he would not spare the land if they caught this scoundrel. They would certainly catch him. The longer the tale, the easier it is to catch a criminal. Daphne thought her husband didn't trust her because of her age. He didn't have to worry about that. Information about the criminal and the plan to catch him are in her head. Kale is just curious as to why they need to get involved in this personally. She could have simply given the order, and they would have done everything for her. But Daphne cannot allow this because she absolutely, that is, they must catch this swindler. If they miss this chance, Prince Alan will. And in that case, he will only strengthen his position as heir to the throne. And Daphne isn't going to let that happen. He's just heard that she has a special relationship with the prince, but he can't understand why she hates him. If that's how it looks in the eyes of others, then we can say that Alan is a good actor. He was told that there had been some interesting rumors going around lately. He wondered what exactly they were saying. The princess left for the Bertrand estate. The man heard that the Archduke's dying father was on the mend. Everyone was talking about the hot springs he had organized. The woman heard it too, but the hot springs in the north are the princess's merit. Rumor has it that she personally dug the earth, forgetting about her status. It seems that one cannot escape one's origin. The prince noted that this is indeed interesting, but they must know that even though he and Daphne have different blood, she is still his sister and princess, so he would ask them not to lose face because of some unfounded rumors. They immediately agreed and said that all this was just the words of some pathetic gossips. And I say that His Highness is so noble. Alan was very interested in what Daphne was doing in the north, if such rumors were circulating about her. It was time for them to set off. Kirill noted that they needed to go because their father was calling them. Suddenly, the princess turned to Kale, after which the guy asked what happened. The princess said that she had a great idea. After which she asked if he wanted to try an interesting game with her. They were warmly welcomed in Meldy. They came here. They arrived at a rich port with a developed fishing industry, Lasmeria, and this is a studio where representatives of the middle and upper classes dress Meldy. The reason why Meldy is so famous is very simple. Namely, the prices, they are insanely high here. The price tag for a small amount is such that one peasant family can live for 6 months on this money. Lord Eggman turned to her and asked her if the thing in his hands really looked cute. She said exactly that it was not so, and asked him to put it back right away. He immediately picked up another bag and asked how she liked this one. Its value is equal to the value of a house for a peasant family. Daphne told him that these things are not worth it. She suggested that he go to a cheaper store because everything here was too expensive. They wouldn't stay here for long, so there was no need to buy anything. Lord Eggman was upset because he thought their little girl knew how to live in luxury, and she turned out to be quite thrifty. He offers me to buy similar ones every day, but she needs to get used to spending money. Daphne said that she already spends a lot of it, so there is no need to get used to it even more. Besides, in her past life, she dealt with finances instead of Alan. Compared to who and what kind of money she managed, it was just a drop in the ocean. Yegman laughed and agreed with her, but asked if it could be said that it was spent only for her own sake. Daphne thought about it, but her thoughts were interrupted by Kale, who said that they were so noisy. After all, this small thing is not worth so much discussion. He handed something to Daphne. Then he asked her why she was standing there looking at him like that. He wanted her to take it quickly. She thanked him with a smile, which greatly embarrassed the Archduke. The girl became interested in what it was that he had to hand it to her so pompously. It was Meldy's title deed. The girl didn't understand at all when he managed to buy this store. Her father remarked that they were like brother and sister, and it was quite a funny game, after which he noted that the princess was very lucky, because now she has a brother who can go and buy entire studios. Dash said that it would be better to return him. The man was shocked that it was really true, and he bought Meldy in 2 counts. Well, finally a big fish has appeared. If they take on this case, they need to do it as soon as possible. It would be a shame to let such a large catch go. Preparation will take a long time because they have a genius alchemist. Looks like there's a festival going on right now. Kale said it starts today. They say that on this holiday it is customary to ask for the blessing of the goddess of the sea, Lasmel. Every year, aristocrats and peasants make an offering to the statue of the goddess Lasmel. They also pray that she will bless them with a big catch and good weather at sea. In these lands, they no longer worship other gods, but it seems they still have a tradition of helping their poor neighbors. Kale added that he wondered how much longer they had to pretend to be brother and sister, but he noticed that there was no one near him. But when he looked back, he saw Daphne there. In a past life, Alan had caught a con man. As she pondered the actions of the thief who had swindled the Earl of Brinton, she realized that he had used the same method of deceptions. He sold the legendary sword to the capital's aristocrats, which crumbled when exposed to air. Aristocrats from the East received a scarf made from divine fabric that dissolved without a trace in water. The various fraudulent groups disappeared from her memory for a time, but she remembered them again after the death of Countess Elmiller. Countess Elmiller was fascinated by the blue diamond necklace and always wore it around her neck. High society followed the trends she set, so blue diamonds became a fashionable decoration among aristocrats for a time. The diamond was called Lasmel's Tears. However, this precious stone, which cost the average aristocratic family a year, had one devastating secret. It contained a neurotoxin that first made your body weak as if you were sucking out all your energy, then made it difficult to breathe and led to paralysis. Thus died Countess Elmiller, more than half of the young aristocrats, as a result of which the emperor intervened in this matter. Alan received the order and immediately began an investigation during which it was possible to uncover the actions of the fraudsters. Now, in the capital, Lasmel's tears have become popular again among the aristocracy. Countess Elmiller has probably already felt health problems. If you try to save her, you can and will avoid Kale's atrocities. Also, Daphne will be able to gain the support of the Elmiller family, and for this, you need to catch the scammers. The man shouted and asked her if she was going to buy anything, and if not, she should not touch anything. Yesterday, Daphne returned quickly, so the Lord asked her if she had found anything interesting, since this is a resort area after all. The princess said that there were so many people, and she didn't even really look. Although everything looked interesting, Daphne was never able to find out where the swindler's shop was. Eggman noted that she could take a walk with Kale. Daphne noted that there was a very busy and noisy Port Street. She really liked the idea because it should be interesting. And she was also happy because this is a great chance to find a shop of swindlers. Afterwards, she asked where Kale is now. The man noted that he said he had business and went somewhere, but should return soon. Kale was looking for a jewelry store, and he had to walk a little further. She has a lot of jewelry. Perhaps she wanted to buy herself a souvenir. As a keepsake, she was carried away by some cheap trinkets, for which she could be ridiculed. Kale wondered if she realized she was the Archduke's wife. He would have to explain her status to Daphne properly. Kale didn't understand how this was possible, because it seemed like he was walking in circles and was lost. He tried to figure out the map, but a carriage passed by, and the wind blew away his last hope. Lately, he has often seen such carriages, and he was told that the capital's aristocrats often travel in them. He became curious about where everyone was rushing to. He heard a conversation about how everyone was now rushing to buy that diamond. Les Miria. Gems are popular among the capital's elite Lasmel's tiers. The man heard that even the middle class saves money to buy it as a wedding dowry. His cousin works as a maid in the castle of the head of the dukes. She says that he is going to invest a lot of money in this business. Suddenly, the Archduke came up to them and asked if he could inquire. He wondered where he could buy this diamond they were talking about. They bowed immediately. The man said that this diamond was called Lasmel's Tears. He believed that this man was a bandit. That's why he said they were simple peasants, and they didn't know where to buy it. Kale was surprised with you that they didn't know because he thought it was sold in a jewelry store. The woman said that she had heard that so many people wanted to buy them that it was difficult to get them even from an aristocrat without a special recommendation. Kale was surprised by that. The mysterious stranger was very happy that things were going smoothly. He didn't even have to do anything, and he already found out about everything himself. Kale wondered if there was another way to buy Lasmel's tears. The peasants were getting more expensive and said they didn't know about it themselves. The Archduke realized that nothing could be done about it. Although with such decoration, Daphne would have raised her status upon returning to the castle. Suddenly, the man grabbed the Archduke and apologized, and he said that there was nothing wrong with that. Kale was surprised that he was wearing leather gloves in this weather. The peasant woman noted that he had the same crystal. An incomprehensible and slightly golden light emanates from the blue stone. These are undoubtedly Lasmel's tears. When Kale heard about this, he tried to catch up with the man. Someone turned around and asked him what he wanted. The knight was very glad that his master had returned and asked if he had found what he was looking for. Kale approached Leon and asked if he had ever heard of the Lasmel tear gem. He wanted to buy it and was shocked that it was so good. He was in complete shock that his master had actually bought such a valuable thing out of the blue. The lady and the commander came into the room and were surprised that the master had already arrived. The commander said that Miss Daphne was waiting for him to take a walk together. Kale was surprised that she wanted to go for a walk with him and told Leon that they would talk later. True, she said that she would really like to go with him to see the port. He needs the goods because he has a new order. The man entered the room and started shouting for the woman to listen to him. The man was ironic that she was still trying to make this sage stone. He has an urgent order, enough chatter. She better make another blue stone. The book said that the scammer's hideout is somewhere here. But the problem is that it doesn't have any clue where exactly. Because in her past life, she spent all her time in the palace and thought that she would come here and immediately notice some suspicious place. There was nothing to be done. I had to check everything. Daphne turned to him and suggested that he go in that direction. The boa constrictor, of course, had a political goal, but still she made the right choice. Daphne already told us that it is a bit hot today, and that is why she suggests going that way. Kirill said that he is not particularly hot. His father lent him a stone that regulates body temperature, so she shouldn't be hot either. She had been surprised for a long time and asked if it was true. After which he remarked that it was a pity if it weren't for that stone, she would have dressed him up as a sailor. Kalo felt a bit uneasy. After which he asked her why she came here at all. He agreed, because he didn't know. The swindlers don't have enough power to touch the emperor, so if they find out that the princess has come here, she will hide in her lair. Besides, no one pays attention to them, and it's so great I didn't understand at all what she was talking about. But if that was the reason, perhaps she could explain it honestly. Daphne didn't quite understand why she had to lay all her cards on the table so quickly. And now Daphne suggests that he have fun. People started coughing. Fumes came from the basement. The man was glad, because the woman managed it quickly this time too. But she didn't understand why at all. The alchemist tried to find out from him why he needed so much of this useless stone. The man said that he had already said that it was needed for hunting monsters. The woman noted that he had never brought a monster here. The man got angry and said that they order. She has to fulfill, so they have to follow a simple rule and not ask unnecessary questions. Daphne told the Archduke that today was so much fun. The guy added that they hadn't found the scammers. The girl said that they spent money all day. Soon these scammers themselves will come to them, period, and today turned out to be a good day. Sir Wessler finally found them, but the Archduke wasn't quite sure what he was doing there. The man said he had been sent a note. They asked me to pass it on to Mr. Kale. The guy thought that this was probably the man. Daphne had no idea what they were talking about. The Archduke thought that it looked like he had sent this carriage too. Kale informed Sir Wessler that he had somewhere to go, so he asked him to take Daphne with him. The girl did not understand at all what was happening, and believed that Kyle had met someone. But this was not in the book. The princess feels like everything is just getting confused, and she can't sit still. She needed to keep an eye on things, so she ran away to check for herself what was going on. The commander was in complete shock when he realized that the lady was not near him. But suddenly, Daphne herself appeared and opened the doors and called Sir Wessler. She shouted at him to get the carriage ready right now, because Kale couldn't be missed. They quickly caught up with Kale and began to observe what was really going on here. Kale seemed to be buying Lasmel's tears, because they were standing in front of him with this stone. Daphne was wondering where he had disappeared to for the whole day, but he caught the scammers. Although it seems like Kale didn't know anything about it, he looked and said that it was not a gem. The men had no idea what he meant. He was an expert on jewelry. Kirill said that they should tighten it up, because he was the same gentleman he had encountered during the day. He doesn't have time for such things, so he has to go. This made the men very angry. They shouted at him whether he thought they would really let him go so easily. Daphne shouted that there were men behind him, but the commander said that she was just worrying for nothing. This is the Archduke. When he dealt with them, Dave reminded him that it wasn't Kale he should have been worried about. Daphne told my lord that these were the very swindlers they were looking for, although it was more like catching rats. Daphne said that her husband is just amazing, and he is such a cutie. Daphne turned to the men and said that before she punished them, she wanted to ask them one question. "Madame, I wonder where the alchemist who created this is now." Meanwhile, the woman did not understand at all why she could not create what she wanted. She did not understand at all what her problem was. Suddenly, there was a knock on her door, and she didn't understand why they came again, because she had done as much as was necessary. But Kale was standing in front of her. The woman was simply terrified because a stranger was standing on her doorstep. Daphne was also standing next to him and greeted her with a smile. Adney had not changed at all. It seemed like she was pleased to see her again. The alchemist asked them what was going on and what they were talking about since she wasn't involved in fraud. She said that everything was as it was. She was of course deceived and used by real scammers, but if the case goes to court, she will not escape punishment. Adden couldn't believe it was true and fell to the floor because she had no idea about anything. Musta said that in that case, she could follow her. After all, she would not only protect her and get her out of this situation, she could also solve the problem of her research. She knows that Adney's substance does not retain a solid form. The woman did not understand at all how she knew about this. This was the problem that had been tormenting Adna for a long time. No matter what she did, when it came into contact with water, it melted and turned into liquid. It was this fact that served as evidence to establish fraud. According to the plot of the book, Adna was eventually executed along with the fraudsters. After her death, the research she did influenced the development of magical item making, so she saved her in her past life. It wasn't because of her that Alan was able to gain greater power than was described in the novel. This time, she would save her again. Daphne told her to follow her, and then she would save herself and find out why her experiments were not working. She would also be able to do her favorite thing, studying magical substances. 2 weeks later, the knight was upset because he seemed to have already begun to get used to these views. The woman was simply dying from seeing sunlight. She said she would die if her skin burned. Kale closed the curtains. The commander said that she should be patient. Igman noted that they were going to a regular picnic, and he did not think that they would catch scammers on the way. Tomorrow, she said that it just happened that way. Eggman added that she came up with the idea of compensating the victims for their losses, and that it was simply wonderful. This will help dispel the good rumors about Kale. They will be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. To be honest, that was her goal. In return, we had to give up all these valuables, so my heart is a little sad. But they didn't leave empty-handed. The alchemist Adden would be very useful to them. She sent the rest of the swindlers and all the money to the estate of Count Brinton. He would take care of the rest himself. Suddenly, the commander burst into the carriage and announced that there was a monster ahead. The red moon appeared earlier than expected. Once they had dealt with him, Kale noted that he was larger than his kin and ordered him to be removed. A few hours later, the alchemist was in complete shock when she saw the monster for the first time. She hadn't thought that she would ever see the monster in real life. The knights said that she shouldn't touch it because it was poisonous. Daphne noted that Adney is an alchemist, can process monsters. Leon is a knight with golden hands. Meldy's studio will belong to her. If Lion is trained well, he can be of great use. Leon didn't understand at all why he suddenly had goosebumps all over his body, and he supposed that perhaps it was because of this girl who said that she needed to get to the lab faster. It looks like a pack of monsters is approaching Kirill, ordered Leon with his father and the Archduchess, and that strange woman to return to the castle. The alchemist was shocked when she heard about the pack of monsters and said that she wanted to see them sooner. Leon was surprised when he heard that it was possible to make clothes out of monsters. After all, he was sure that it was impossible. Daphne said that the alchemist could process the monsters to neutralize the poison, then the skin would become softer. Adney was driving upset. She really wanted to see the pack of monsters. Daphne asked Leon if he wanted to try, and he said he didn't think he could do it on his own. But his brothers might be interested in this matter. Leon has many brothers. Someday they will inherit his father's studio. I told him long ago that in that case, he should talk to them. The alchemist looked out the window and asked about the area, because it was always so gloomy, cold, and quiet here. Ori said that it was not always like this here, after which the woman became disappointed. By the way, she doesn't know why the Red Moon and the monster only appear in the Duchy of Bertrand. Daphne has read the novel, so she knows, but she'd better pretend she doesn't know anything about other lands. The Duchy of Bertrand is covered in snow, so many people mistakenly believe that it has always been this way. Or he said that in ancient times, it was also warm and sunny here. No monsters, a very peaceful place, and one day, for some unknown reason, a goddess cursed these lands. Since then, eternal winter has come, and with the appearance of the Red Moon, a long night came, and monsters crawled out. The entire family of Archduke Bertrand was also cursed. She must know what rumors are going around about the Archduke. Daphne said she heard that he was obsessed with a curse. The guy asked if she meant the rumors that he quenches his thirst with blood. It's not true, but this curse actually makes a person insane. So said Lord Eggman. When the classy moon rises, Archduke Bertrand and his successor seem like monsters mad about blood. Leon told the lady that he had something to tell her. Daphne asked him if it was urgent. The man knelt down and said that he and all the people from the Castle of Shadows were very grateful to her for becoming Archduchess. This is a real blessing for them, but he asks that no matter in what form the Archduke returns, she should not leave him, and Daphne didn't quite understand why he brought this up right now. It was already cold outside. He could have said it inside. She said a long time ago that she would think about his words, but first, he needs to get off his knees. This Leon, such a fine fellow in this world. Where she ended up there were different gods. For some reason, they decided to leave the world of people. The goddess Datno, who stayed until the very end, appointed the last sacred maiden before her departure. And this sacred maiden was the main character of the novel, Flora. She still doesn't understand why she also has Flora's abilities. Well, it seems that with the rise of the Red Moon, they became stronger. Leon finally found Milady. They returned to the Shadow Castle 3 days ago after she said she would think about Leon's request, not to abandon Kale. He came to her every day and asked if she had made a decision. Sir asked if she had gone somewhere. He assumed that she had looked in on the alchemist girl again. Daphne went to her because Leon was not there. He came to her to show her this. Then he handed her a bundle of paper. He said that his sisters had created the design and wanted to show her the sketches in person. I was surprised that she was so fast. And the guy said that they do everything quickly. And here apparently they were very inspired. There was some extra Yeti fur left in the warehouse, so he gave it to them. Daphne was excitedly asking when she could see a sample. Leon noticed that they were very happy, and he thought that tomorrow would be ready. Daphne really wanted tomorrow to come sooner. She woke up in the night and wondered what time it was. Because of the red moon, it was dark all day long, so she lost the sense of time. It's too quiet. It's probably still night, that's good. She can go to the kitchen and eat bread and milk. There is probably a newcomer there, and they are doing their first nightly round of the beautiful moon. Because your soul will tell him that when the red moon appears, a strange energy begins to swirl in the castle. Discharged, and did not understand what strange energy is. An experienced knight said that it gives goosebumps, especially at night, like now. When you walk down the corridor, that only the servant uses a strange sound may follow him. He was very scared when he heard strange sounds. But the inexperienced one was not very scared when he saw Milady. Daphne was not very pleased to see them, but still said hello. They were sure that the lady must be sleeping now. Daphne said that she woke up from hunger, wanted to go to the kitchen, but got lost. She said to Quarrel that she could go straight ahead because the kitchen was on that side. The lady thanked him. But the princess did not understand at all why he was so scared, as if he had seen a ghost. Adna must be wandering around here at this time. Maybe people working at night look scary. It's been going on for so long, and I don't understand why the kitchen is still not visible. Suddenly, she looked at the wall and saw some strange pink, very bright light there. She didn't quite understand what it was. When she opened her eyes a long time ago, she didn't quite understand what had suddenly happened, and where she was anyway. It looks like she fell from there. It's not very high, so she can't get up there, but there's nothing she can do. Daphne decided to just go forward. Maybe this was the secret passage of the Shadow Castle, and there would probably be an exit ahead if she was stuck here. Better not to think about it. What's more important now is that she's too hungry. The princess tried to calm her tummy. Sometime later, she was already very hungry. Daphne had gone out to have a snack, and then this happened. Finally, she saw the exit and was very happy because she really guessed this tunnel was connected to another room. But when she entered inside, she realized that she saw a divine language in front of her, an ancient language that is no longer spoken today. And these are the scripts of the gods who hid their location on this earth. Daphne didn't understand at all what was happening. She knew that this castle was built in the times when gods still lived among people. If she finds ancient rock paintings in the basement of the house, she will have the same feeling. Perhaps she can read them too. She doesn't understand anything except the word Daphne, and it seems that it describes that the goddess Daphne did something high. It seemed like she could make out what was written a little, but no. She decided that if she couldn't do it, there was nothing she could do. Probably only a high-ranking priest will be able to read this, and he will have to pay a lot for it. Suddenly, she heard a voice that said that he believed too Daphne's head hurt very badly. The voice said that he had been betrayed too. The princess felt like her head was about to split. The voice was waiting and would wait. It would never give up. Daphne felt the most terrible pain. The princess is still conscious, so we need to call someone for help. It's very noisy. When you opened your eyes a long time ago, when you saw a woman above you, asking if the lady was okay, because she was so worried about her. Mariel was also at the side and said that they were very worried about her. I asked her how long she had been unconscious. Egmont said that it had been about 3 days, and that during that time, she had never opened her eyes. He thought her mouth might be dry, so he offered her some water. Daphne was grateful for the concern. She needs to eat well and get plenty of rest. The knights who were making their nightly rounds found her unconscious on the floor in the servants' corridor. Davnas choked on water and asked again if it was true. Egmont noted that she really was overworked. The city said that it was very good that he was now healthy, and added that she should be removed from all work for some time. The Lord said that she needed to recover, and now her task was to lie down and rest. This was against the rules, because now she couldn't say anything. Yegman added that she should not even think of leaving the room. The maid also agreed, and said that she needed absolute peace, so she became the girl who went out for a snack at night and lost consciousness. By the way, she was very curious about what kind of room it was. It didn't look like a room that was several thousand years old. It was as if it had been built only recently, and she wondered what that voice was that was in her head, and how she managed to get out of there. It was clearly reacting to her power. But it's very similar to what happened to Flora in the novel The Unexpected Rise of the Red Moon, the accidental discovery of the mysterious room, and the reaction to the Force. All this is supposed to happen to Flora. Well, it seems to have happened to her. The problem is that this is the wrong place, the Shadow Castle. If this event really did pass to her, spring should come to the Duchy of Bertrand. Mariel entered the room and shouted that something bad had happened because the monsters were approaching the Shadow Castle. Tomorrow didn't understand at all why now she wouldn't be able to just watch and do nothing. The rest stand dumbfounded and don't know what to do. Only she knows the weak spot of these monsters, so she needs to tell them about it. In the story, Alan almost died once because of a monster that could only be killed by a blow to a vulnerable spot, since its skin became harder with each attack. His weak spot is the white spot on the back of his neck, but she doesn't understand one thing. why the monster from the second part of the novel appeared here and now. Eggman had never seen anything like it. Sir Filbert added that it was the first time he had seen anything like it either, after which he noticed that strange things have been happening lately. In addition to this monster, many cases of unknown monsters appearing have been recorded. Are there any that have reached the very center of the settlement? They are more violent and furious than before? It started about 3 days ago at night. Lord Eggman noticed that he was a little worried about it. Sir thought he meant the Archduke. Now he is worried too? This trash is behaving strangely. It only circles at the top as if it is looking for something. This is unusual behavior. He does not feel threatened by it, but it would be better to kill it just in case Sir said that he will deal with it. The master ordered everyone to take aim, and they began to shoot at the monster. But suddenly, Daphne burst in and shouted that they couldn't just shoot at them. Eggman was surprised when he saw the child. He told her to rest in the room, but it was too dangerous here, so she had to go inside. Daphne realized that she was very interested in these monsters. She asked them to look in that direction. There was a white spot on his neck, and she asked them if they thought it might be his weak spot. Eggman was surprised. He asked for binoculars to take a closer look. Like she said, there's some weird spot there. Well, either she has good eyesight or intuition or something else. Daphne simply begged them to believe her and began to pray right next to them. The Lord said that if she said so, there was no reason to doubt it. It was worth a try, so they would try to aim at that place. The master ordered his black onion to be brought. Daphne was very pleased, because he believed her very easily. She was afraid that he would start asking how she knew about it. Sir told Madam that it is dangerous here, so he asks her to go inside. But Lord asked her to stay here. She is now also the mistress of the Bertrand house, and must get used to hunting monsters. Well, if she's scared, she can leave. She said a long time ago that she wants to stay and watch because he himself said that she is now one of the Bertrands. The Lord was not at all against it, and added that he had not held a bow in his hands for a long time. But since she saw this, he must certainly hit the target. Eggman disappeared right on target. The man was in complete shock, introduced, and this time she was right. The Lord noticed that just one hit was not enough, so he ordered Filbert to take care of the lady. The man grunted that the princess needed a safe place, and quickly Daphne didn't understand what that meant at all, because he was smiling at her now. She didn't understand at all what was going on, because he looked as if he recognized her and was happy to see her, as if he missed her. But she doesn't understand why at all. Kale made the decisive blow, and the monster died. Daphne noticed that his condition was quite serious. His breathing was irregular. His eyes were glowing red. This was the curse of the Bertrands. Eggman noted that what he feared had happened, after which he ordered the Sir to prepare the chains. He also ordered that the prison be opened and several knights brought in. It looks like he's still trying to keep his sanity, so he'll try to buy time. Daphne decided to approach Kel. When the Lord saw this, you tried to install it because it is dangerous. He repeated again that it was dangerous and called her to him. He asked her to help him. The princess didn't mind at all and touched his face. That's exactly why she was here. He seemed to have calmed down, and his expression was peaceful. The Kale she saw that day looked like a monster in human form. But at the same time, she felt very sorry for him, because he was trying to restrain himself so as not to lose his mind and prevent new tragedies. It was 2 days ago. Now Kale is much better. It is impossible to even imagine that this is the same person. Daphne noticed that there was something unusual about that day. The moment her powers touched Kale, both the snowstorm and the red moon immediately stopped. They retreated as if a miracle had happened, and that monster smiled at her. There was nothing like that in the novel. When Flora came here, she saw a monster for the first time. Nothing special happened in her past life. But the princess knows for sure that something important has happened this time. Suddenly, someone knocked on her door and interrupted her thoughts. Mariel announced that the lady had to go to meet Sir Wessler. Daphne told my lord that she would come soon. But he, of course, did not react because he was sleeping unconscious. It turns out that this happened to the Archduke, due to the sudden increase in the number of monsters. The commander noted that this was all true, and she added that, at first, everything was as usual, but at some point there were more monsters, and they behaved strangely. It began about 3 days ago at dawn. 3 days later at dawn, it was just at that moment that she discovered that strange place. Daphne realized that it must have something to do with the deity. The gear she sent them was very useful. The commander heard that Miss Adney had cast a buff on them, and thanks to it, they quickly dealt with the monsters, and the Archduke was able to escape pursuit. Daphne was very glad to hear this, because it was not for nothing that she ran to the alchemist at every opportunity and asked her to hurry. At the same time, she hid there from Leon, so that he would not pester her. Instead, she was able to provide the alchemist with expensive materials, which cost a lot of money. Oh, well, she still makes money from the hot spring, so there's nothing to be sad about. The lady also raised the commander's spirits today. The men felt some strange smell, and the water smelled of something rotten. The smell has been absorbed, and now it smells all over your body. You can't go anywhere like this. We agreed that this source is exactly the same, and you can't cover your nose with your hands, because they stink too. The man believed Marquise Burdette's words and came here, but it was a complete disappointment. The man angrily asked what was going on here, in the form. She said that the business was profitable, from the Marquis Burdette. The girl said she was confident of success. She is the daughter of the Marquis Daron Burdette. Now, because of some stupid source, there are stains on the Burdette name. Daron told her father that she did everything according to the recipe, but he told her to stop because he didn't want to hear anything. He drove her out of his sight. If she was going to copy, she had to do it properly. The Marquise did not understand at all who she took after that she was not even capable of surpassing some princess of common descent. Daron was very upset and did not understand how he could say that she was worse than some commoner. After all, her father himself said that it was a good idea and asked her to promote it. Daron decided that now was not the time to shed tears. She had done everything right after all. I practically copied the structure of the hot springs and used the same herbs. But she definitely missed something, so she needs to recheck the water temperature and the order of adding the fragrant herbs so that their hot springs are no different from the princess's hot springs. In this way, Daron will prove that she is no worse than this adopted simpleton. The next day, Daph wrote a letter to Count Coman. In it, she reported that the Red Moon period, which had come sooner than expected, would finally end. It's good that his lands weren't badly damaged. There were more monsters in the Shadow Castle, and their behavior changed somehow strangely, but there were no serious consequences. But Daphne isn't just writing him this letter in person. She has a favor to ask of him, and yesterday she was able to verify the information that Sir Wesler had given her. The main reason for everything was in that room, because immediately after finishing tea, she went there again, and she rewrote every word that was written there. When she left, the room was gone. Perhaps it was a hallucination. It is better not to mention it. She sends him a donation and manuscripts and asks him in his name to convey this to a high-ranking priest who is able to decipher the divine language. Daphne Bertrand. The reason she needed the name of Count Coman, who would commission the translation to a high-ranking iron, is simple. She does this to avoid the emperor's attention. After the gods left the human world, there was discord between the imperial palace and the temple for many years. In the past, when the temple listened not to the imperial opinion, but to the aristocrats, these strained relations completely collapsed. Because of this, the temple eked out its existence on donations, trying to preserve traditions. But thanks to this, they managed to avoid imperial control. And the family of Archduke Bertrand was under the close attention of the emperor. If she wanted to contact the temple using that name, the first thing that would come to mind would be doubts about the Archduke. Daphne was lucky that Count Coman's wife was a pious woman. The girl asked Marielle to send this letter along with a bag of gold to Count Coman. The processing of Adney's monsters has been improved. The issue with the divine language has also been resolved, and now we can rest. Well, suddenly, the lady noticed something strange, and when she went to the window, she didn't understand what it was at all. She decided to take a peek, since it was still forbidden to go outside. But Lord Eggman noticed her and said that he had already told her that she needed to rest in her room. Tomorrow understood this, but she was simply very curious about where these carts came from, and she could not resist. Yegman said that there was nothing to be done, and he wanted to show her when everything was in order. But since she had already left, he suggested that she check it out together. The path that was blocked due to the red moon is now open, so the goods he couldn't get are being delivered now. Eggman sees that they brought many gifts for her, and his son Daphne was surprised and asked again, "What gifts are they talking about?" The gentleman said that these were souvenirs from the families who suffered because of the Lasmal Tears incident. From the capital and the eastern lands, they sent gold, silk, and jewelry. And from the kingdom of Lasmeria came a letter of thanks, fruits, and other gifts. During the investigation, it was discovered that poisonous gas was used in the process of making Lasmal's tears, so the capture of the fraudsters prevented any unfavorable consequences. Earl Brinton did a better job than she thought. It was so great, and she was glad they caught those crooks. Sir noticed that a letter had also arrived addressed to her. Daphne realized that this letter was from the imperial palace. Judging by the seal, which does not belong to the emperor personally, but to the imperial palace, it is most likely that this letter was sent by Alan, and the second letter came from the family of the Marquise Elmyler. She can read it here, too. Daphne sighed. The lord didn't understand at all what was wrong with her. The girl said that it was better to listen to his advice and rest in the room. The princess said that she would probably go up to her room. Eggman was surprised, but he was not at all against it. Daphne thought about opening the letter from Alan somewhere other than near him, because she wouldn't be able to do that. We must read it quickly, destroy it, and say that it was just a greeting note. Eggman told Sir that he could rest. The man raised his eyebrows, which seemed to indicate that the Archduchess wanted to hide something, and it was immediately obvious that she was up to something. Eggman laughed and said that she was so simple-minded that it made her seem even sweeter. He liked that about her. The man understood him. Daphne began to read the letter, and when she read it, everything was as she thought. This letter was sent by her brother Alan. She immediately burned the letter. It was a simple threat disguised as a greeting. He asked her to sit quietly in the north because it was unknown what the emperor might come up with. Alan's caring manner of speech was evident in the letter, but he never once inquired about her affairs, as was customary in greeting letters. In her past life, she was exactly the same. She fell for his tricks like a stupid fool. The emperor really does have a persecution complex, so it's better to think in advance what he will answer. The letter was addressed to the dear Duchess Bertrand. Some time ago, the Earl of Brinton told him that she had managed to catch the swindler. Thanks to her, she and her friends were safe, so she would like to visit the Shadow Castle to thank her in person. This was written by Katrin Elmyler. She would like to receive an invitation, after that, having given unthought there to arrange a ball. She still needed a reason to introduce the monster skin dress to society. It was then that she remembered the dress sample and Leon's sister. She did not understand at all how she could have forgotten. So much had happened lately that it had completely slipped the lady's mind. Daphne turned to Marielle and asked if Sir Leon had come here before she lost consciousness. Marielle was surprised and said that she rarely sees him lately, but after what happened, he often visited, and it was even strange. Daphne was also surprised and agreed with her. He had been coming all the time until that day. That you are completely unclean here. Daphne didn't understand at all what it meant that Sir Leon couldn't be found. She assumed that he was missing. But the man said that it was not about that. Maria said that he was definitely in the castle, but every time she started looking for him, then they usually answer that they saw him just recently. He's probably chilling out next to the hay. But when they approached the hay, he immediately ran away. The man did not understand at all where he got dressed, because a few minutes ago he was there. He is so elusive that even she asked for help from Adjutant Skeet. The man said that as soon as he started talking about her, he disappeared in that very moment. Sir Leon seems to be avoiding her, but Daphne doesn't understand the reason at all. Perhaps there was something wrong with the sample she promised to show him, but in that case, he could just explain to her, so she needs to ask him personally what's going on. Since he's running away from her, there's only one thing left to do, and that's catching him. It should be noted that she just had a good idea on how to arrange this. Thus began the plan to catch Sir Leon. Step 1 is Marielle driving Sir Leon to a certain location. Step 2. Skeet chases Sir Leon from the opposite side. As he ran away, he was glad that now he would not see her for some time. Skeet turned to him and said that he had been looking for him for so long. He said that the Archduchess was looking for him, but he immediately ran away. So she finally found Sir Leon, and he was heading to the exact spot that was clearly visible from the balcony and her room. She gave the command, and they immediately proceeded to the third step. Sir Wesler catches Leon. Cale will be grateful that he agreed to take over the Duke's duties again. Sir asked if he was sure he was okay, since he needed more time to recover before. Kale, on the other hand, feels cheerful, and if he says so, the man can be calm. As they exited, they heard screams. Sir Wessler asked Leon why he didn't just surrender. Leon was screaming that he didn't want to. The commander said that it was disobeying an order. Kale didn't quite understand what was going on. Daphne was surprised that the Lord had woken up. If so, he should quickly catch Sir Leon. The Archduke didn't understand at all what they had done here again. Leon shouted for them to stop running after him, because they had already been running in a circle. That's it. Leon was caught by Kale. He did it with a punch. Daphne was horrified because she said to catch him, not knock him down. Daphne turned to Sir Leon and said that he should answer why he was avoiding her. Leon started to get nervous, and the princess didn't understand what was wrong with him. Maybe it was the dress pattern, and that was the problem. Leon said that the lady saw the Duke's condition. Kale didn't quite understand what he was talking about. She had long ago asked Sir what he was saying and why she should be scared. The man remembered how he had asked her not to leave the Duke, so he said that she had not answered him then. Moreover, she saw his curse. That's why she was looking for him. Daphne immediately laughed. The knight did not understand at all why she was laughing, and the girl said that she found it funny, because it was such stupidity. If she wanted to leave the Archduke, she would not have looked for him, but would have simply left, and this is indeed logical. She needed him because of the sample they had discussed earlier. Leon saw the light. He said that if the lady was talking about it, then everything was ready. They decided to sum it up. This is Miss Carol. She is a deft hand with a needle. This is Louis, who is very interested in accessories. And also Lexi. She loves leather goods and is very sweet. And also his youngest Maury. He is the best at mending. After which he asked if she remembered everyone. The older girl said that for them, this part was to get to know her, and the lady was interested in what kind of dog it was. This is Edigo. He is the youngest in their family. Maury likes being the youngest. That's why he calls him that. Daphne remarked that they were both so cute. After which the older girl asked if the mistress would allow her to show her a sample of the dress. Of course, she shouldn't have been against it. And when she saw it, she was in complete shock. This outfit is made entirely of monster, from the fabric to the embellishments. The design of the dress is inspired by the snow-white fur of the monsters. This is truly just beautiful, so both the fabric and the fur are from that monster. The girl noted that the lady was absolutely right. This was excellent. She couldn't even believe that something like this could be created from monsters. Their skills are quite sufficient, but she doesn't even know what she would have done if she hadn't found such masters. Meanwhile, in Kale's office, the lady did not answer. She clearly saw the Duke's curse. The commander told him that Leon begged his mistress not to abandon him and even knelt before her. Kale decided to ask who asked him to say that. They heard laughter, and the lady saying that if she wanted to leave, she would have left herself. That's why the gentleman thought that she saw him like that, and still wasn't afraid. He doesn't even know what Daphne is like. Who knows, maybe thanks to her new times will come to their family. Perhaps the girl was sent to him by his mother, the former Duchess of Bertrand. After he remembered all those words, you thought that maybe it was true. Daphne informed the gentleman that she was going to hold a ball in the Shadow Castle and to show off the dress they had made from the monsters. Everyone was shocked with you that she would appear in their dress at the ball. The eldest girl said that at least they were not aristocrats. But they know that the Shadow Castle hasn't hosted such events for a long time, and she still wants to appear at such an important event in their dress. Daphne said that she would tell everyone about it as soon as she saw this sample. She immediately realized that all the clothes made by their hands would be simply perfect. The guy said that if she believed in them so much, then they should believe in themselves. They would try their best and make a dress even better than this one. The princess said that she would not need a dress for the ball. She said that the ones they would present would be a suit for the Grand Duke. They were surprised that she needed an outfit not for herself, but for the Duke. Daphne confirmed this and said that she needed something like a robe, but without sleeves. And also, 2 more cloaks are needed. The older girl was surprised that she had not thought of anything for herself. Daphne said she didn't need clothes. The aristocrats of the North and Middle Earth would be attending this ball, and she would use this chance to show off their creation. So it was all the more appropriate for her to appear in their clothes. But she said no, because the ball will not be attended by children, but by those who have long since made their debut in society and celebrated their coming of age. The girl couldn't help but agree with her. And even if they sew children's clothes similar to adult ones, they will still look different. They were upset because they were already happy and thought that they would sew for her. Daphne felt awkward in front of him. She couldn't do anything. There was no time for her clothes yet. The princess said that next time she would definitely contact them. They were very happy and swore on their little fingers. After that, the children began to rejoice, and the princess noticed that he was so simple-minded and sweet. The capital, the imperial castle. The maids were talking among themselves about the commoner princess who had been sent to the cursed land, the one who had been on everyone's lips lately. She caught the swindlers and simply turned the entire aristocratic world upside down. And these hot springs, they really love her in the north, and they also call her the Fairy of Blessing there. By the way, they say that the ball that will soon take place on the server is being organized by the Northern Archduke, who fell in love with this commoner princess. The maid thought that she would be despised there so much that she would quickly die. Prince Claire came up to them and asked what it meant. The women were very surprised when they saw the second prince. He asked them again what they had just talked about. The maids were very afraid and could not say a word. The prince did not understand at all why they could not say directly who was organizing what. The maid nevertheless decided to say that they were simply discussing what rumors were going around. Claire asked if that meant they weren't just living quietly in the north. That meant it was the commoner and the damned archduke who were plotting this. The maids did not understand at all how it had come to this. The prince decided that he had to tell his father about the search for this girl. He would be happy. The maids were in complete shock because he himself was half a commoner. Elmiller estate ball at the estate of that very Bertrand. What kind of wind of change is blowing, and who would want to go where monsters live? People said that everyone was busy shopping for clothes in anticipation of this day. Another lady said that she was also going to the ball. She wanted to personally hear the story of the capture of the swindlers. The lady was in complete shock, and the other asked if they had managed to sign up for the hot springs. Beg finally got lucky after a dozen attempts, and she was waiting impatiently. The lady could not understand at all what they were talking about. Another person noted that she had gone on a trip, and during that time, a lot had happened here. In any case, she herself managed to sign up for the Bertrand Hot Spring after she sent 3 people there. Now she has to wait 3 months. The lady was shocked and said that she didn't know what these springs were, but she thought it would be better to just go to the others. The lady said that she didn't want to go to other springs because she had already been there, and there was something strange floating in the water, and it smelled just awful, total unsanitary conditions. The girl who organized it was also sitting there, and these conversations really irritated her. She did the same thing. The lady said that nothing could replace the beautiful scenery that opens up at those springs. There is also something to see in the Burdett estate, and that thing cannot be afraid, because they are not there, but those winter trees. When they are covered with snow, it creates a mystical atmosphere. Lady Burdett thought they were some kind of silly trees. If you go out in the north, they are everywhere. The lady also said that she had heard that Lady Elmiller was in touch with the Duchess. The girl confirmed this and said that she was her benefactress. She is really very sweet and recently said that at the ball he will show me something more grandiose than hot springs. Burdett thought if there what could be more grandiose than sources. They correspond with her comma, and she has such a feeling as if she had a little sister, which she always dreamed of. Other people had said they wanted to meet her too. Lady Burdett decided that this time it would not be so. The western part, the area of the shops, the salt shop, the ball at the Duke Bertrand estate. Even the wedding of the former duke was rather modest. That's why there's so much talk. He's going to have to go there anyway. Otherwise, he won't get the right to export petroleum products. Someone said that in that case, he would have a request for him. He must tell what kind of person this commoner princess of the north is. He was surprised with you that he had to do it just like that. The mysterious man said that in return, he would share with him what amazing thing would be presented at the ball. So the man decided to agree and asked what exactly he wanted to know. The emperor noticed that the second principal said that he had important business with him, so he even became curious. The emperor was surprised with you that by important matter, he meant only this. Claire was shocked that you are only this to him. He asked again what this meant, because as he had already said, after Daphne left for the north, she was doing well there. The emperor informed the prince that he understood perfectly well what was troubling him, but Princess Daphne was the wife of Duke Bertrand, and their family had the unique right to conduct business there. Moreover, Princess Daphne is his sister and has not stopped slandering him about her. It was late, so it was time for him to rest, and he should go to his room. The prince left the room upset. The emperor read a letter from Edia Brinton. As she promised, she writes him a letter. The situation in the duke's estate is rather cold, but she cannot admit that she is related to the imperial family. So for now, she just watches from the sidelines. Perhaps they don't want to give any extra reason for nagging, so they pretend that they have a good relationship and act like exemplary spouses. Alan was very curious about what was going on there. He was not one to turn a blind eye to this. Something was definitely going on. Daphne left the room and was surprised with you that there was no one there, and then turned to her maid. Marielle said that if anyone asks her, she will say that she is drinking tea or resting. But I still decided to ask where she was heading this time, because every time Mr. Eggman catches her and brings her back. Daphne said that today everything will be different, because she is sure that she will not be caught today. Mr. Eggman can't even imagine that she is going to a place he doesn't know about. Kale didn't understand what had happened at all. After all, he knows that Miss Daphne needs to rest in her room. It was convenient to agree with him, but she had a problem. Kale asked what the problem was. The princess said that the problem she believed was that she couldn't dance. How amazing she knows and can do so many things. So the Duke would never have thought that there was something she couldn't do. Daphne said he was wrong. She still had a lot to learn. You told him that he would never blame her for this. Daphne decided that if he did something like that, he would be screwed. The princess remarked that she hadn't been here for a long time. Kale said that he hadn't either. His mother loved to dance here when she was alive. Daphne realized that this was the same forbidden place in the Shadow Castle, which became so after the death of the Duchess. She hoped it was nothing that they had come here. Kale called Miss to him in the form of, she said that she could not dance. He can teach her. Daphne was shocked that he came here himself and acted so calmly. Maybe he's okay, now Daphne said, that since he was offering, she would be grateful to him. Was that the case? Claire, it must have been upsetting. Alan understands how he felt, but his father is the ruler of this empire. If there really is something, he will not remain silent and allow it to happen, so he can rest assured. And don't be angry with Daphne. Being merciful to the disadvantaged is one of their duties. He didn't understand at all why she suddenly stopped listening to him. Daphne. Kale noted that she danced quite well for her first time. After all, in her past life, she danced a little to songs that don't exist here yet, but she is surprised by something else. Daphne didn't think Kyle was interested in dancing, but he turned out to be good at it. Kale said he wanted to ask her something. Daphne asked what it was he wanted to know. In the morning when the bloody moon rose, she saw him returning to the fortress, and he decided to ask if his appearance frightened her. He scared me like crazy. He looked like a fiend. And yes, they look like a human. Anyone would be scared if they had something like that. But Daphne said it was okay, because she believed he wouldn't lose control of himself. After which, Daphne asked if she could ask a question too, and Kale decided to find out what she was interested in. It seemed that the living room had been empty for a long time, and she was curious about why. He immediately let go of her hand and turned away. He said he had already told her that she reminded him of that time, when he killed his mother with his own hands. It all started right here. That very day, the emperor secretly came here to talk to his parents. As soon as he left, the symptoms of the curse suddenly appeared. The imperial family assured him that they would keep the cause of his mother's death and the truth about his curse a secret, which is why this parlor is always closed. Daphne didn't know about this, so it turns out the emperor came here. She didn't seem to have seen any mention of his visit before. It's as if someone wanted to hide this information. Could this really be Alan's doing? There is every reason to believe that this is so. Last time Alan killed her, among other things, because of KL. If anyone can hide such a thing, then only those from the most noble families. Only Alan and Flora fit this criterion. Today, finally, there will be a ball. Marielle asked if she should braid the lady's hair as usual, but Daphne said no. The princess asked the maid to fasten them. As she showed her, Marielle remarked that it was very nice, but she was not sure if it would be comfortable. Daphne said that she needn't worry, because today she had to be the nicest. Little by little, the guests began to arrive. The lady arrived and was very happy to see Princess Daphne. She was so happy to see her. They are very grateful to her for the invitation, and she is the wife of the Marquis of Elmel, Adele. She was very happy to welcome her. Next to her was Catherine. She was also very happy to see them. Daphne wished that the wisdom and mercy of the winter spirits would come with them. She wasn't very grateful to them for coming all this way. While the princess was familiar with ancient etiquette, Daphne noted that it was important to observe traditions and smiled. Catherine agreed with her, but added that lately people have forgotten about it. Elmile, a family of pure-blooded aristocrats to the core, with many titles and regalia, and the wife of the Marquis Elmael, is without a doubt the most influential woman of this family. The deer, the symbol of the family, has long supported the imperial family, with its antlers. But considering how the family of the previous empress was overthrown, who along with the Elmel family supported prosperous crowns, the Marquis is probably very concerned about the future of the family. The Elmale family has no illusions about the stability of their position. Last time Elmale sided with Alan because of this, but in the end, this mistake only made the family's situation worse. But this time it's different. Elmale is obliged to support Kael. Therefore, the Marquis's wife and his daughter are the only weak point. They are obliged to follow her plan. Lady Catherine called the lady. At last, they met her in person. Because of Mother, they couldn't have a quiet chat, and she was so upset. Daphne said she was upset too. Catherine wanted to say that this hairstyle suits her very much. It is simply lovely, and the hair looks so soft. The princess was very grateful for the compliment, and she was so glad that they were able to come. To be honest, she had never hosted such receptions. Catherine said that she had done a great job, and that it was a privilege to receive an invitation from her. The Duchess was surprised, and said that she was very glad the ball would soon begin, and she should also hurry, because she was the mistress of this ball. Daphne added that something grand awaits her today, and she thinks the lady will be surprised. Catherine thought she was so sweet and innocent, she knew she couldn't trust bad rumors. She said she would look forward to seeing her in that case. Daphne was very happy because this woman was simply enchanted by her. Well, it was time for her to go too. It's so lovely. The man never thought that such a wonderful ball could be prepared in the provinces. But if you think about it, the damned madman, the Archduke and his wife, a commoner. They say he's pure evil. What if he goes crazy at the ball and that? And just the ice flows probably made him dizzy. All these riches, she doesn't even know etiquette. But still she pretends to be a mistress, a despicable peasant. Archduke Bertrand and his wife. A mad archduke, a rude and mercenary commoner. These people do not fit this description at all. Many of the guests had imagined them quite differently, and it seems the rumors were wrong. They are both very beautiful, and Lady Elmale was indeed right. As for their clothes, they simply sparkle. The lady's dress is made of some luxurious fabric, and the Archduke's suit also looks expensive. Many wanted the same for themselves. Then they too would enter high society, and the man was sure that even the emperor would not have something like that. Great, they got attention. Sir Leon's family must have died of envy, seeing the lady's dress, but Kyle looks even better. He told Lady Daphne that these gloves are a little strange, and these gloves don't warm up, and they don't protect your hands, so he doesn't understand at all why I need them. And the lady said that they are for beauty. Daphne, you will notice that soon all the high society will be on the net, and a new trend will appear. Here it is simply an exceptional thing. Everyone is so excitedly discussing the outfits of the Archduke and his wife. They look like they were created by fairies. Fairy is putting it mildly. But their outfits are simply wonderful. They say that soon there will be a monopoly on the production of this fabric. Only the Bertrands will sell it. They can only imagine how the price will skyrocket. But it's worth it. She should have been pleased because they all got caught. She accomplished one goal for today, but the second is the man hiding among the guests, and he is the Emperor's spy. The Emperor trusts no one. Edia's letter brought back peace only for a short time, and soon the next night's move will be made. I have long been sure that he could have sent someone today, someone who was always close to the Emperor, and whose loyalty he does not doubt. This man is one of her guests. Well, she decided to try to catch him, but suddenly someone approached her. It was Tyrant Burdett. She introduced herself. Daphne was already very busy, and now she would have to deal with this woman. Tyrant was very grateful for the invitation. She came in place of her father, the Marquis of Burdett. Marquis Burdett. His family was the center of high circles in the north. But since the north is on the outskirts of the country, the Burdettes had always wanted to get into the center, and she didn't think any of them would actually come. It seemed they were the ones who made the hot springs after them. The woman is very angry about their meeting with her. Daphne tried to react neutrally to her. She is a plagiarist. Lately, something had been bothering her. The hot springs of the Bertrand family were on everyone's lips, and a similar place had appeared in the north as well. There was a terrible Vanya standing there, and the water temperature was also unstable. Soon everyone began to criticize this place, and the problem is that this incident also affected its hot springs. And she still came here. It seems she has no shame, no conscience. The girl asked if her mistress was ignoring her. She tried to say that she had not yet learned the rules of etiquette, but Daphne beat her to it. The woman was embarrassed, because that was what she was going to say, so he asked her if she was criticizing her manners. Daphne confirmed this and said that she seemed to miss them a lot. The woman began to say that this was too much. Because she makes fun of her and her family, Daphne said that she is very impolite and her family neglects her family. And then he said that, moreover, the hot springs that she owns are just a fake. They just boil water from the nearest lake. The girl did not understand at all how the lady knew about this. Daphne asked if they thought no one would find out, and then he said that secrets always come out. The girl couldn't believe that this was all because of her. Daphne said that she would look at her behavior and decide whether to disgrace her in front of everyone or not. If she wanted to keep her honor, then she should go upstairs and wait until she called her. The girl agreed, and left rumors about fake sources could have cooled her ardor, but she even felt a little sorry for this woman. The design of her springs and their wonderful service, the flower petals on the water. It is not surprising that someone tried to copy her idea, but she found out that Tyrant managed to copy the plans for all the internal communications, plumbing and boiler. It's impressive. It's hard to imagine how much work she did. She seems to have an amazing talent for engineering. She was never mentioned in the book. And in her past life, Daphne, it seems, did not meet her. In the case of the sources, it spoiled their relationship. But perhaps she can win her over to her side. However, she decided to deal with that later. Now it was time for her to start hunting. Daphne sat down next to the lady and said that she was so tired and didn't think that throwing balls was so hard. She believed that it was all because she was born into a simple family, or she simply had not gained experience yet. The woman said that it was a reminder of her first ball, so she didn't have to worry, because there would always be people who were unhappy. Daphne worries that she was too harsh with Lady Darion, and she hopes that she did not offend her too much. But she herself behaved rudely, because who can overload the path of the mistress of the house? So Daphne's reaction to the answer reflected her status. Daphne said that in that case she was calm, and added that she was wondering how she was going to describe this incident to the emperor. I must have said that she has a good sense of humor, but it seems that she is already too old for such jokes. She said she was convinced that the emperor would not allow her daughter to inherit her father's status. Lady Elmiller said that she did not at all understand what the princess was talking about, but she wonders what made her think like that. Daphne said she would tell her someday. It seemed that Her Highness wanted to reassure the Marquise he could have given up the Marquise's place just by mentioning the Grand Duke Bernardi, but she will remind her that His Majesty never made a promise that he could not fulfill. When the Marquise's place becomes available, His Majesty will give this position to the eldest son of Count Elmer, and not to her. How about giving her another title? Jinya said that even if it was a joke, it crossed the line. Dasha said that she might not believe her now. But when the summer passes, the severe autumn cold will come, and they will seek protection for themselves, and then she will remember her words. The Empress tried to take advantage of her, so the woman was simply furious. So if they sign a contract with their seller, then all the above conditions will be met. Kale said he was not happy with this, and did not understand how he could speak with such pride about such conditions, so he called the next one. Here the man was in complete shock and said that if he didn't like something, he would fix it. Daphne was shocked, because now he doesn't let her say a word. Kirill said that he didn't like him. He looked like a swindler. Daphne didn't understand at all what was wrong with him. So far, no one had satisfied his condition. Call the next one and it was expected, but all this is too much. So far, no one has received a contract they survive on money from buyers. Finally, he was free. The guy noticed that Daphne looked very tired, and she should go and rest, but the girl said that she was fine. He asked her why she thought there were so few people today. Daphne wanted to say that it was because he kept turning down applications, but she said that it was okay. A man entered the room and introduced himself as False Cannon from the family of Viscount Westcannon. She must have been in complete shock because he was still in the Empire, Viscount Westcannon. Kirill had never heard of such a family. The man said he didn't know because the mansion was on the outskirts. Despite the fact that the business is many generations old, it is small, does not supply only rice and wheat, and their business is not so popular. It's true that the Cannon family's holding is small. He is brave to come here, but they will expand it in a few years. He should already be on another continent. The reason he's sitting in front of her now is because they may be small, but they've been around for a long time, and the port fees are much cheaper. Daphne said that it meant he wanted them to sign the contract with Solray. She agreed to sign contracts with Solray. She asks for a few adjustments regarding the terms. A few hours later, the man asked to give him some time, and he would do everything. The deposit would be paid in advance, and the commission would be 7%. He understood everything, but he didn't quite understand what she meant by this guild. Cannon Youngsik really didn't know the head of the Lunar Information Guild, Iris Cannon. She's his twin sister. The doctor said that no matter how much he pretended, he would not be able to deceive her because she knew a lot about him. He hides a lot of things, and that's true. For example, Cannon Youngsik and Yonghae are actually descendants of the Ameli kingdom. The maid said that she would leave water for washing here, and noted that she was going to bed later than usual today. Daphne noted that Marielle was right. Several days had passed since the ball. The contract with Nim Cannon was quite successful. They received low commissions and a small initial deposit. Take Daraon, who has great potential as an engineer. She was given the conditions to expand her vision of the world and to definitely join the Rune Guild. Now she has no choice but to wait for the Rion Guild to contact her. Daphne just wants them to get to her as soon as possible. In the middle of the night, a stranger came to her and presented her with a knife and said that it would be better for her not to make noise and to wake up peacefully. Also, she better not do anything stupid. She should answer how she knew that his brother and sister are descendants of the Ameli kingdom, and that she is the head of the Rune Guild. Empress from a commoner's orphan. This is not information that is easy to find. This is Ayres Cannon. Daphne thought she would receive a letter or something like that, but a personal meeting and even a threat is not what she expected. Daphne said that she had a pretty good bluebird. Bluebird is luck accompanying in any affairs and desires, a symbol of happiness and hope, also used in the meaning of intuition and sixth sense. The woman asked her who it was. Davno said that if she destroyed the personality of the bluebird, then she would have the right to be it. Considering how unhurried he is, she thinks he has great self-control. Cannon Youngsik shouldn't be too careful, apparently. Yes, whoever found her wants to ask the Ryun Guild. No matter how much he thought about it, there was definitely something strange about Daphne. After all, she asked him to kill the imperial family. Maintain more in Brinton County, Les Mels. Tears are tricksters, and the alchemist who created them, Adni. This time, even the lineage of a minor noble from the western region. He thinks that there is too much classified information that others simply cannot understand. And he also does not understand how much power Daphne has. His father said that Daphne might be the person his mother sent, and that might be true. Otherwise, there is so much that cannot be explained. Mom, if she really did send Daphne, that's such a ridiculous idea. I need to clear my head a little. It was strange that he hadn't seen any entries today. Daphne must be asleep by now. Well, when he looked at her window, he saw that she was not sleeping. There was a knife next to her. The woman said that she should know that she does not accept orders from aristocrats, and was surprised that her bluebird could not find out about this. I told her a long time ago that it was a lie that the Ryun Guild didn't accept this. It must be all at the request of the aristocracy. Surely the introduced knows everything, and just as she knows she is an orphan and a commoner, before the emperor adopted her, in order to improve her reputation, she was in an orphanage. However, shortly after finding a new family, the house completely burned down in a fire for an unknown reason. The Rune Guild was investigating the incident, but suddenly Kale burst into the room. The woman noted that it was very unexpected to meet him here. What was happening was becoming more and more interesting. After some time, Kale believed that it was an assassin sent by the emperor, and the woman knew from rumors that he was quite persistent. She sat there for a long time with a dissatisfied face and did not understand when they would finish. After all, she was bored. At night, Daphne wants to sleep. Suddenly, the woman was distracted, and Kale came out. The sword was out of her hands. Daphne stood between them and said that it was time for them to stop. In a few days, I was surprised for a long time, because she looks like a simple Seryoshka, but allows you to communicate with each other. Never in her past life had she heard of such a magical instrument. This unusual object fell into her hands a few days ago, when Ayer's cannon appeared. When she stopped a sword fight between Kale and Aeris threw this at her, and also asked her to wear it as earrings. She left without saying another word, and in the following days, although the conversation with her went well, a problem arose. Is Kale avoiding her, or is she imagining it? Each time she was told he wasn't in the Oval Office. She also invited him for a cup of tea or a snack, but he again refused. When they meet by chance, he passes by. Daphne thought she had made some mistake. The man informed His Highness that his schedule for today ended after this. The man apologized and asked if he could ask a question. The gentleman was curious, so he allowed him. The servant was grateful and said that in that case, he would try to ask calmly. Perhaps he and his wife had quarreled. She noticed that he had been refusing to meet with Daphne in recent days, and she added that there was a lot of talk about this in the castle. The gentleman said that this was not true because there were simply too many worries in his head. The man thought he was talking about love experiences, but Kale just started walking away. The man was shocked and didn't understand what it meant. Kale returned and said that he would have to put off the remaining business for another time. By the way, the problem is in love. Apparently, he has reached puberty. Daphne noticed that the weather was nice today, and she thought about inviting Marielle to a picnic. Suddenly, His Majesty entered the room, and Marielle announced that he was inviting her for a cup of tea. They sat in silence, and Daphne assumed they had come to have tea without uttering a word. Kale turned to his wife and asked if she remembered what he had said earlier. She had been a princess before she became a Grand Duchess. Kale had asked her to be careful. That was true, but he still found time to nag at her. That must be it. What worries him is that Ayer's cannon came to her in the middle of the night. Tomorrow she said that in the future, she would try to be more careful. The guy said that she asked him to kill all the members of the imperial family and take their place. He wants to keep this promise by being with her. He still has many questions for her. Things he not only doesn't understand, but can't find any explanation for. He won't ask her to explain everything right now. As long as he ascends to the throne, as she wishes, he will be there to protect her, and she must let her know when she wants to speak to him. Dasha smiled and said that she agreed to this, and someday they will really talk. Marielle provided the lady with the letters that were received today. I have long noticed that this is a good job, but she will look at it later, and she will also send a special letter along with everything. A handwritten letter sent by the emperor himself. Musta told Marielle to hurry up and pack her things. Musta laughed and noted that the time had finally come. After 4 years, Daphne Bertrand would return to the capital. In 3 or 4 hours, the snowfield will end. Leon can already see the horizon. Marielle can't get used to the bright seasonality on the border, although she has been tirelessly observing it for the 4th year already. However, each sunset is unusual and beautiful in its own way. This is the charm of the Northern Bay. Leon asked if the lady agreed with him. Daphne said that, of course, she must be beautiful. She wondered how much money this sunset added to the hot springs tourism revenue. It's been 4 years since she moved to Bertrand's castle in the north. There have been many events and changes there in the intervening years. She spent much time in the library studying the history of the gods. On her first birthday in the Shadow Castle, she received a precious gift from Lord Eggman, and they've grown quite a bit. And Kale has become much softer towards her during this time, she thinks. Kale noticed that she was looking at him, so he started looking at her that way too. I had to ask his lordship if it was ugly. The gentleman became embarrassed and said that it was certainly beautiful. At some point, he even started laughing. Still, it was helpful to do some special training, so it didn't look too scary. Leon and Marielle thought that the two of them were so newlyweds and so beautiful together. They go to the imperial palace for the ladies' coming-of-age ceremony. The coming-of-age ceremony is usually held on the birthday. But the lady's birthday was several months ago. Marielle agrees with the knight. You said that in fact, when the lady was in the imperial palace, she never celebrated her birthday. No one in the palace was interested in this day. Even she didn't know about it until she came here. Daphne said that she didn't care, because this ceremony was only meant for the emperor to find out whether she was his chess piece. What will happen in the capital is not her ceremony, but rather something completely different. The men did not understand at all what to do. The gentleman asked what had happened and was told that the wheel had apparently broken. Kale asked if it could be fixed. The man said he thought he could find another wheel if he went to the stables. They had to go through this forest. The sun had already set. The Archduke wondered how far they would have to go. If they went through the forest on horseback, they would get there very quickly. Kale said that he would give him protection. The man was very happy and could not believe such care. The knight was immensely grateful to the Lord, because the Archduke would go with him. But the Lord was going to send Leon. Kale called Leon, who immediately looked out of the carriage and asked what His Highness needed. The gentleman said that he would go with the coachman to get a wheel for the cart, and he would stay to guard her ladyship. His Excellency is late, the knight thought they were quick. They cannot be sure if everything is all right. Monsters appear even though the red moon has not risen for 4 years. Or he said that monsters rarely appear on the border. Even if someone does come out, he the knight will simply catch him out of boredom. Daphne said that if so, then maybe he won't be bored with such a friend. There was a huge monster outside the window. Leon agreed because it was just a werewolf, and it was so boring. Marin in turn fainted. At the same time in the stable, they were choosing a wheel. The gentleman did not understand at all why it was taking so long, because 2 hours had already passed. Knight coachman said he couldn't find even one suitable wheel. A similar one was attached to a carriage outside. Then there's nothing to be done. I'll have to take the wheel off and go. The driver was in total shock and asked what it meant. Leon will have to work really hard to overcome boredom. The knight had to act he was targeting his weakness right now. But this monster snatched the sword from his hands and threw it aside. She must have been simply horrified and began to worry very much. The monster began to attack Leon, who only covered himself with his hand. Daphne could not allow this. Suddenly, Leon noticed that the monster had stopped moving. He had no idea why it had stopped, but he realized that it wasn't about the house that he didn't want to. He just couldn't. That's why he immediately realized that this was his chance and went for the sword. If he hadn't stopped, Leon would have been caught. It was as if he had been paralyzed. The monster has appeared. Although the red moon has not set this time, it is necessary to inform the Archduke about it. Mrs. Daphne came out to him, and Leon asked her if she also saw that the attacking monster froze in an instant. I must say that Leon is doing well as I expected, but he needs to wipe the blood off his face first.